It has been 25 years since the release of the original Halo. From the beginning of the franchise with combat evolved all the way to the modern day, Halo has been formative in gaming history and even became a global phenomenon. When looking back to the past and the Halo games included in the Master Chief Collection, do they hold up to the legendary name they created for themselves? Or is Halo simply a ghost in gaming history? Today we will look back at the history of the Halo series, the numbers and statistics of how it performed among critics and audiences, how much it costs, and how long it takes to beat, as well as my personal opinion to see if it's still worth your time 25 years later. Before we get started today, I want to thank you for checking out the video. Most people watching aren't subscribed, so if you end up enjoying this breakdown, consider subscribing and liking the video. Please note that this video will be covering the games in the Master Chief Collection, which is Halo Combat Evolved to Halo 4. I have yet to play any games in the Halo series after that point, and I only feel comfortable reviewing and looking at the history of the games that I have an actual opinion about. Halo Combat Evolved is a 2001 first-person shooter game developed by Bungie and published by Microsoft Game Studios. The game was released on November 15, 2001 for the Xbox, with a Microsoft Windows and Mac OS X port released in 2003, and a downloadable Halo 360 port released in 2007 as part of Xbox Originals. It is the first installment in the Halo franchise. Set in the 26th century, players assume the role of Master Chief, a cybernetically enhanced super soldier, accompanied by an artificial intelligence construct named Cortana and the forces of the United Nations Space Command, or the UNSC. Players battle against an alien theocracy known as the Covenant, while they attempt to uncover the secrets of the Halo, a ring-shaped artificial world. Halo was conceived as an indirect successor to Bungie's previous first-person shooter games, Marathon and Marathon 2. After the 1995 release of Marathon 2, Bungie considered ideas for their next game and wanted to try something other than a direct sequel. One of the ideas that the team began to develop was that of a first-person shooter game developed by co-founder Jason Jones as, quote, the natural extension of Marathon, which would have turned out to be something along the lines of Quake. Concurrently, the team explored the concept of a vehicular combat game that featured tank battles in a futuristic setting, eternally dubbed the Giant Bloody War Game. Jones started the design of a 3D engine that could generate height-mapped graphics to visualize elevated surfaces, and he eventually suggested that Bungie use the technology to realize the tank combat idea. The team was enthusiastic about that prospect and proceeded to cancel their first-person shooter project in order to commit to the creation of the Giant Bloody War Game. However, Jones struggled to implement a physics model to simulate vehicles in the game, which led to Bungie to change their plans and developed the real-time strategy game, Myth: The Fallen Lords, released in 1997. Around this time, Bungie comprised of around 15 people working in Chicago. After Myth was completed and Bungie decided on a sequel, Myth 2 Soulblighter, Jones delegated its development to the company's other designers and resumed his work on the technology that had not yet been applied to the 1997 title. A group of 3 Bungie staffers began to develop an RTS with a focus on science fiction, realistic physics simulations, and 3-dimensional terrain. Early versions used the Myth engine and an isometric perspective. The project had the initial working title Armor, but was changed for being boring and for the project's dramatic changes from what it was first envisioned as. It was switched to Monkey Nuts, and then Blam, after Jones could not bring himself to tell his mother the original name. Experimenting with ways of controlling units, Bungie added a mode that attached the camera to individual units. The vantage point continually moved closer to the units as the developers realized it would be more fun for players to drive the vehicles themselves rather than have the computer do it. By mid-1998, the game had become a third-person shooter. Peter Tomte, Bungie's then executive vice president, used his contacts from his former position at Apple to get lead writer Joseph Staten and Jones an audience with CEO Steve Jobs. Jobs, impressed, agreed to debut the game at the 1999 Macworld Conference and Expo. Anticipation built for the game after favorable reviews from industry journalists under non-disclosure agreements at Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3, 1999. Days before the Macworld announcement, Blam still had no permanent title. Possible names included the Santa Machine, the Crystal Palace, Hard Vacuum, Star Maker, and Star Shield. Bungie hired a branding firm that came up with the name Covenant, but Bungie artist Paul Russell suggested alternatives, including Halo. Though some did not like the name, likening it to something religious or a woman's shampoo brand, designer Marcus Leto said, quote, "It described enough about what our intent was for this universe in a way that created the sense of mystery." On July 21st, 1999, during the Macworld Conference and Expo, Jobs announced that Halo would be released for Mac OS and Windows simultaneously. The game's premise at this point involved a human transport starship that crash lands on a mysterious ring world. Early versions of the Covenant arrive to loot what they can, and war erupts between them and the humans. Unable to match the technologically advanced alien race, the humans resort to guerrilla warfare. At this point, Bungie promised an open-world game with terrain that reacted and deformed from explosions, persistent environment details such as spent shell casings, and variable weather, none of which made it into the final product. These early versions featured Halo-specific fauna, later dropped following design difficulties and the creature's detraction from the surprise appearance of the Flood. The Master Chief was simply known as the Cyborg. When Halo was shown at E3 in June 2000, it was still a third-person shooter. Bungie's financial situation during Halo's development was precarious. Ahead of Myth 2's so obliged release, Bungie was surviving on missed sales and had missed release deadlines. A glitch that caused Myth 2 to wipe the contents of the directory it was installed onto was only discovered after 200,000 copies had been produced for the December 1998 launch. Bungie recalled the copies and issued a fix, costing the company $800,000 as a result. Bungie sold a share of the company and publishing rights to Take-Two Interactive. Still facing financial pressure, Peter Tomte contacted Ed Fries, the head of Microsoft Game Studios, about a possible acquisition. Fries was working on developing the software lineup for Microsoft's first game console, the Xbox. He negotiated an agreement with Take-Two Interactive wherein Microsoft gained Bungie and the rights to Halo, while Take-Two kept the Myth and Oni properties. Jones and Serapin pitched the purchase to the rest of Bungie as the way they could shape the future of a new game console. Microsoft announced its acquisition of Bungie on June 19, 2000. Halo was now to be the tentpole launch game for the Xbox. Bungie now had about 9 months to compile the loose gameplay and story concepts of Halo into a finished project to be released on the Xbox, still an experimental hardware platform. To make players feel more connected to the action, Jason Jones pushed to turn the game's perspective from third person to first person. A key concern was making sure the game played well on the Xbox's gamepad, as at the time, first-person shooters on consoles were rare. Spearheading the effort, designer Jamie Grismier wrote code to discern player intent and assist the player's movement and aiming without being obvious. The game buffered player input so that the result was the desired player movement, rather than the movements players were actually making. Other Bungie products were scrapped, and their teams absorbed into Halo in the rush to complete it. Grismier said that after the Bungie team moved to the Microsoft campus in Redmond, Washington, he was so busy he did not unpack his belongings for 6 months. The designers prototyped encounters and enemy AI on a sandbox level B30. The success of gameplay on this small chunk of the game energized the team, and B30 became the Silent Cartographer, the 4th mission in Halo. To make the release date, Bungie made drastic cuts to the game's features and scope. The open-world plans were scrapped, and it became clear the lengthy planned campaign was not feasible. One level was cut and replaced with an expositional cutscene. Staten described his role as putting story duct tape over gaps that appeared to smooth them over. To save time, Leto suggested reusing campaign levels. Glowing directional arrows were added after playtesters got lost backtracking. Microsoft game writers Eric Trotman and Brandon Boren performed last-minute rewrites to the script. An online multiplayer component was dropped because Xbox Live would not be ready. Only 4 months before release, it was decided that the multiplayer was still not fun, so it was scrapped and rebuilt from scratch, using team members who moved from the defunct Bungie West team after completing Oni. Some personnel took to sleeping in the office for the last few months to make sure the game made its deadline. Bungie's social culture and the rush to complete the game meant that the team members provided input and feedback across discipline. Aspects such as level design demanded collaboration between designers creating the environments for players to explore and the artists who developed these environments' aesthetics. Initially, artist Robert McLeese and Leto were the only artists working on what would become Halo. Bungie hired Shai Kai Wang as an additional artist to refine Leto's designs. The aliens making up the Covenant began with varied exploratory designs that coalesced once each enemy's role in the game was defined. Spearheaded by Paul Russell, the game's visual design changed in response to the changing gameplay and story. The artists made efforts to distinguish each faction in the game by their architecture, technology, and weaponry. The UNSC's original curved look was made blockier to distinguish it from the Covenant. Human weapons also remained projectile-based to provide a contrast to the Covenant's energy weapons, and their vehicles based on animals, with the Warthog being inspired by Leto's love of off-roading. The interiors of Pillar of Autumn drew significant influence from the production design of the film Alien. Organic, curvilinear forms, along with a color palette of greens and purples, were used for the Covenant, while the Forerunner came to be defined by their angular constructions. The interiors originally drew on Aztec patterns and the work of Louis Sullivan, before being refined 5 months from the game's completion. Composer Martin O'Donnell and his company Total Audio were tasked with creating the music for Halo's Macworld debut. Staten told O'Donnell that the music should give a feeling of ancient mystery. O'Donnell decided Gregorian chant would be appropriate, and he performed the vocals alongside his composing partner Michael Salvatore and additional singers. Because he did not know how long the presentation would be, O'Donnell created smushy opening and closing sessions that could be expanded on or cut as the time required to back up a rhythmic middle section. The music was recorded in Chicago and sent to New York for the show the same night the piece was finished. Shortly before Bungie was bought by Microsoft, O'Donnell joined Bungie as a staff member, while Salvatore remained at Total Audio. O'Donnell designed the music so that it could be, quote, disassembled and remixed in such a way that would give him multiple interchangeable loops that could be randomly combined in order to keep the piece interesting, as well as have a variable length. Development included the creation of, quote, alternative middle sections that could be transitioned to if the game called for such a change. O'Donnell sat with the level designers to walk through the levels, constructing music that would adapt to the gameplay rather than be static. Quote, the level designer would tell me what he hoped a player would feel at certain points or after accomplishing certain tasks. Based on this information, O'Donnell developed cues the designer could script into the level, and then he and the designer played through the mission to see if the audio worked. He made sparse use of music because he believed that music is, quote, best used in a game to quicken the emotional state of the player, and it works best when used least. He also stated that, quote, if music is constantly playing, it tends to become sonic wallpaper and lose its impact when it is needed to truly enhance some dramatic component of the gameplay. The cutscenes came so late that O'Donnell had to score them in only 3 days. Ed Fries described the period before the Xbox's launch as chaotic. Quote, you've got to imagine this environment of panic combined with adrenaline, but money's mostly no object at the same time, so we're spending lots of it trying to do all this crazy stuff. After several planned video game tie-ins to Steven Spielberg's film AI Artificial Intelligence were scrapped, it became clear that Halo had to serve as the tentpole title for the Xbox, a role which the game was never intended to fill. Halo's debut had been well received, but its move to the unproven Xbox console caused press treatment to be colder than it was before. While a playable demonstration of the game at GameStop 2001 was well received, critics had mixed opinions to its exhibition at E3 2001, where the game was shown off in a very broken state with poor frame rate and technical issues. Even within Microsoft, Halo was divisive. After Bungie refused to change the Halo name to appease marketing research teams, the subtitle Combat Evolved was added to make it more descriptive and compete better with other military-themed games. Fries recalled analysts had suggested that Halo had the wrong color palette compared to competing console games. Freeze never showed the results to Bungie. The game was released in North America simultaneously with the Xbox on November 15, 2001. Halo: The Fall of Reach, a prequel novel to Halo Combat Evolved, was released a few weeks before the game. Science fiction author Eric S. Newland penned the novel in 7 weeks. The novel was nearly killed halfway to completion. Newland credits Trotman with saving it. The Fall of Reach became a Publisher's Weekly bestseller with almost 200,000 copies sold. The game itself would be novelized with Halo: The Flood, written by William C. Dietz and released in 2003. On July 12, 2002, a Halo port for Windows was announced to be under development by Gearbox Software. Its showing at E3 2003 was positively received by some critics, with skepticism by others. It was released on September 30, 2003, and included support for online multiplayer play and featured sharper graphics, but had optimization issues that caused poor performance. Halo was later released for Mac OS X on December 11, 2003. On December 4, 2007, the game became available for the Xbox 360 via download from the Xbox Live Marketplace. While Halo was not an instant runaway success on release, it had a long-tail sales rate and a very high attach rate for the Xbox. During the 2 months following Halo's release, the game sold alongside more than 50% of Xbox consoles. 1 million units have been sold roughly 5 months after release, a faster pace than that of any previous 6th-generation console game. The game sold 3 million copies worldwide by July 2003 and 4 million by January 2004. By July 2006, its Xbox version had sold 4.2 million copies and earned $170 million in the United States alone, while its computer version sold 670,000 copies and earned $22.2 million. Next Generation ranked it as the second highest selling game launched for the PlayStation 2, Xbox, or GameCube between January 2000 and July 2006 in the United States. Halo received widespread critical acclaim, with a 97 out of 100 on review aggregator Metacritic, based on reviews from 68 professional critics. Curran's reviews for Edge praised the game as, quote, the most important launch game for any console ever, and commented, GoldenEye was the standard for multiplayer console combat. It has been surpassed. GameSpot claimed that Halo's single-player game is worth picking up an Xbox for alone, including, quote, not only is this easily the best of the Xbox launch game, but it's easily one of the best shooters ever on any platform. IGN remarked similarly, calling Halo a, quote, can't-miss, no-brainer, sure thing, 5-star AAA game. Gary Whitta of official Xbox Magazine called Halo a stunning achievement. All-game editor Jonathan Litta praised Bungie for doing a remarkable job with Halo, taking many successful elements from previous standouts in the genre to make one very playable game. Among the specific aspects that reviewers praised were the balance of weapons, the role of drivable vehicles, and the artificial intelligence of enemies. The Xbox version of Halo received more than 40 awards. Among them were numerous Game of the Year awards, including from the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences, Electronic Gaming Monthly, Edge, and IGN. GameSpot named Halo the third best console game of 2001, and it won the publication's annual Best Xbox Game and among console games, Best Shooting Game awards. It was a runner-up in the Best Sound category. The British Academy of Film and Television Arts awarded Halo Best Console Game, and Rolling Stone presented it with their Best Original Soundtrack Award. Halo also won the Electric Playground's 2001 Best Console Shooter Award, the 11th Annual GamePro Reader's Choice Awards for Best Combat Game of the Year, and Golden Joystick Award for Xbox Game of the Year in 2002, as well as Spike Video Games Award for Best PC Game in 2003. Halo Combat Evolved won 4 awards at the 5th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards, now known as the DICE Awards, which included Game of the Year, Console Game of the Year, Console Action Adventure Game of the Year, and Outstanding Achievement in Visual Engineering. It also received nominations for Outstanding Innovation in Console Gaming, Outstanding Achievement in Game Design, Outstanding Achievement in Gameplay Engineering, and Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction. Next Generation reviewed the Xbox version of the game, rating it 5 out of 5, and stating that if you didn't think there was a reason to buy an Xbox, Halo will change your mind. Although Halo's overall reception was largely positive, the game received criticism for its level design. GameSpy commented, quote, "You'll trudge through countless hallways and control rooms that all look exactly the same, fighting identical-looking groups of enemies over and over and over. It is simply frustrating to see a game with such groundbreaking sequences too often generate into this kind of mindless, repetitive action." Similarly, an article on GameStudies.org remarked, quote, "In the later part of the game, the scenarios rely on repetition and quantity, rather than innovativeness and quality." Eurogamer concluded, quote, "Halo is very much a game of two halves. The first half is fast, exciting, beautifully designed, and constantly full of surprises. The second half is festooned with gobsmacking plot twists and great cinematics, but let down by repetitive paint-by-numbers level design." Halo was released prior to the launch of Xbox Live, and lack of both online multiplayer and bots to simulate human players was criticized by GameSpy. In 2003, GameSpy included Halo in the list of top 25 most overrated games of all time. Halo's PC port received generally favorable reviews, garnering a score of 83% on Metacritic. GameSpot stated that it was, quote, "still an incredible action game and a true classic," awarding it a 9 out of 10. It received a score of 8.2 out of 10 from IGN, who stated, quote, "If you played the game on the Xbox, there's not much for you here." Eurogamer called the game, quote, "a missed opportunity," but stated that the online multiplayer component was a massive draw for Halo veterans. The PC port of Halo was heavily criticized for having poor performance issues, even on an Athlon 64 or Pentium 4 Extreme Edition based high-end PC at the time. Halo has been praised as one of the greatest video games of all time, and was ranked by IGN as the 4th best first-person shooter ever made. In 2017, the Strong National Museum of Play inducted Halo to its World Video Game Hall of Fame. Halo is credited with modernizing the FPS genre. According to GameSpot, Halo's, quote, "numerous subtle innovations have been borrowed by countless other games since." The game is often cited as the main reason for the Xbox's success, and it began what is commonly regarded as the system's flagship franchise. In July 2006, Next Gen Biz published an article estimating Halo as the second highest revenue-generating 21st century console video game in the United States, behind Grand Theft Auto Vice City. The game's popularity sparked the usage of terms such as Halo Clone and Halo Killer, applied to games either similar to or anticipated to be better than it. Halo has also been featured at both Major League Gaming and the World Cyber Games. In addition, the game inspired and was used in the fan-created Red vs. Blue video series, which is credited as the first big success of Machinima. Ed Fries, former vice president of Microsoft Game Publishing, created a freeware demake Halo titled Halo 2600 for the Atari 2600 in 2010. Halo 2 is a 2004 first-person shooter video game developed by Bungie and published by Microsoft Game Studios. Released for the Xbox in 2004, the game is the second installment in the Halo franchise and the sequel to the 2001 Halo Combat Evolved. In Halo 2 story mode, the player assumes the role of the Super Soldier Master Chief and disgraced alien commander Arbiter in a 26th century conflict between the United Nations Space Command, the Genocidal Covenant, and later the Parasitic Flood. Halo had never been planned as a trilogy, but the critical and commercial success of Combat Evolved, selling more than 5 million copies in 3 years, made a sequel expected. Xbox General Manager Jay Allard confirmed Halo 2 was in production at Electronic Entertainment Expo E3 2002, with a planned release in time for Holiday 2003. Many at Bungie wanted to make a sequel, building on cut ideas from Combat Evolved, with a more ambitious follow-up. The added publisher support for a sequel allowed greater leeway and the ability to return to more ambitious ideas lost during Combat Evolved's development. Not satisfied with merely adding back-cut content to the sequel, designer Jamie Grismier recalled that the team tripled everything, rebuilding the game engine, changing the physics engine, and prototyping a system for stencil shadow volumes. The game's development would suffer from a clear lack of leadership. Early development discussions happened in small, unconnected teams that did not talk with each other. Bungie co-founder and project lead Jason Jones, who had been exhausted shipping Combat Evolved, similarly burned out during Halo 2's production. Jones left the project to work on another Bungie game, Phoenix, leaving fewer people to work on Halo 2. The departure of Bungie's co-founder Alex Serapin in 2002 caused additional friction and politics in the workplace where Serapin had once mediated tensions. Artist Robert McLeese recalled that Bungie never had good managers, with creatives simultaneously judging managerial roles. Quote, "This kind of worked when there were 12 of us. It worked less when there were 30 of us, and it kind of collapsed when there were 60 of us," he later said. Writer Joseph Staten described the team's ambitions as, quote, "Then we just plowed ahead, much like we'd done with Halo, with one notable exception. We ordered ourselves a giant sandwich, took a bite, but didn't realize how big it was before we started in, and we did that across the board, technically, artistically, and story-wise. But of course, we didn't figure that out until it was too late." Grismier described the situation more bluntly, quote, "What's the phrase? Putting 10 pounds of crap into a 5-pound bag. We really tried to cram it too full, and we paid the price." Lack of communication led to some team members spending time developing assets or content that was duplicative or wasted. McLeese recalled he spent 2 weeks developing a new weapon that was ultimately cut from the game. An important feature for Halo 2 was multiplayer using Xbox Live. Multiplayer in Combat Evolved was accomplished via System Link and had nearly been scrapped altogether in the rush to complete the game. Most players never played large maps, while a subset greatly enjoyed 16-player action, connecting consoles together with network cables for group play. Engineering lead Chris Butcher said, quote, "We looked at the small set of fans who were able to do this and just how much they were enjoying themselves, and asked ourselves if we could bring that to everybody. That would be something really special, really unique." Initially, Combat Evolved's multiplayer was supposed to involve larger maps and player counts than what was shipped, and members of the team wanted to resurrect those plans for Halo 2. The smaller multiplayer modes and local split-screen capabilities of the first game would have to be removed. Designer Max Hoberman successfully argued against wholesale removal of a successful component from the previous game. He was put in charge of a small team to further develop the small-scale arena multiplayer, while the rest of the team developed a larger warfare mode. Bungie promised in previews that the core of this multiplayer would be squad-based online battles between human Spartans and Covenant elites, with players able to call in airstrikes. Hoberman's pitch for Halo 2's arena multiplayer was to bring the fun of couch multiplayer online. As Hoberman was not an excellent video game player, he wanted to make sure the game remained fun for even lower-skilled players, rather than catering to the very competitive ones. The system of playlist matchmaking and allowing friends to party up to play games together were crucial to creating a global community of players. The story for Halo 2 grew out of all the elements that were not seen in Combat Evolved. Jason Jones organized his core ideas for the sequel story and approached Staten for input. According to Staten, among the elements that did not make it to the finished game was a horrible scene of betrayal where Miranda Keyes straps a bomb to the Master Chief's back and throws him into a hole in revenge for her father's death. Quote, "Jason was going through a rather difficult breakup at the time, and I think that had something to do with it," he said. Staten and Grismier discussed seeing the war from the Covenant perspective, forming the idea to have part of the game be told from the perspective of a Covenant warrior known as the Dervesh. Late in development, the Dervesh became the Arbiter after legal teams at Microsoft were afraid the game was sending a message about Islam. In February 2003, Bungie began developing a gameplay demonstration for E3 2003. The demo, which was the first gameplay seen by the public, showcased new enemies and abilities. Many elements of the trailer, however, were not game ready. The entire graphics engine used in the footage had to be discarded, and the trailer's environment never appeared in the final game due to the limitations on how big the game's environments could be. Elements like vehicle hijacking were entirely scripted, and to keep performance at an acceptable level, a Bungie staff member deleted objects from the game as the player passed through. The restructuring of the engine meant that there were no playable build of Halo 2 for nearly a year, and assets and environments produced by art and design teams could not be prototyped, bottlenecking development. Grismier recalled that development was moving backwards, and after E3, the team realized much of what they had worked on for the past 2 years would need to be scrapped. To ship the game, Bungie began paring back their ambitions for the single and multiplayer parts of the game. All other Bungie products, including Phoenix, were cancelled, with their teams folded into Halo 2 to complete the game. The campaign was completely rethought and remained unplayable for more than a year while the multiplayer was being developed. Ultimately, a third act of the game, where Master Chief and Arbiter came together on Earth to defeat the Prophets, was cut entirely. Staten hoped the resulting cliffhanger would be treated like the end of The Empire Strikes Back. Planned vehicles, such as variants of the Warthog and an all-terrain vehicle, were scrapped. With the single-player mode in trouble, very little had been done with the large Warfare multiplayer mode. Eventually, the entire Warfare mode was cut, and Oberman's small team project became the shipping multiplayer suite. Engineer Chris Butcher commented, quote, "For Halo 2, we had our sights set very high on networking. Going from having no internet multiplayer to developing a completely new online model was a big challenge to tackle all at once. And as a result, we had to leave a lot of things undone in order to meet the ship date commitment that we made to our fans." As one of Microsoft's tentpole games, the publisher had 2 full-time user experience researchers managing a team of game testers working on the title. The researchers used playtests, surveys, and usability testing to provide Bungie with input on how the game would be received. Feedback of the game's matchmaking system was very unfavorable, with the testers preferring the control offered by traditional servers. Researcher John Hobson recalled that while they suggested to Bungie that they should change the matchmaking system, the developers remained steadfast their new approach would be better in the real world. Hobson later agreed with their choice, stating that his team had only narrowly avoided ruining the game. To test real-world network conditions, Bungie ran a closed alpha of the multiplayer with 1,000 Microsoft employees for 5 weeks. Outside of Bungie, Combat Evolved's success had become a problem for Halo 2's development, and success of the Xbox platform was riding on Halo. Microsoft originally pressured Bungie to have the game ready as a launch title for Xbox Live in November 2002, which Bungie employees told them was impossible. At one point, Microsoft executives had a vote over whether to force Bungie to ship the incomplete game or give them another year of development time. Microsoft Studios head Ed Fries walked out of the vote and threatened to resign to get Bungie the extra time. Missing the Xbox's last holiday season before its successor console, the Xbox 360, shipped was not an option. To hit its new November 9th, 2004 release date, Bungie went into the mother of all crunches. Design lead Paul Bertone recalled, quote, "A lot of people sacrifice themselves in ways that you should never have to for your job. He kindled his job for nearly 2 months and slept in the office for the final days of development, while artist Lorraine McLeese took her baby to the office after daycare ended as she worked the long hours." Grismier said that this lack of a polish period near the end of the development cycle was the main reason for Halo 2's shortcomings. Butcher retrospectively described Halo 2's multiplayer mode as a, quote, "pale shadow of what it could have been and should have been due to the tight schedule." About 70 people worked on Halo 2 during its development. In late December 2025, an original Xbox build of Halo 2's E3 2003 demo, along with other early 2003 material and internal development tools, was leaked online. Halo 2's soundtrack was composed primarily by Martin O'Donnell and his musical partner Michael Salvatori. The team had composed the critically acclaimed music of Halo. O'Donnell noted in composing the music for Halo 2 that, quote, "making a sequel is never a simple proposition. You want to make everything that was cool even better and leave out all the stuff that was weak." O'Donnell made sure that no part of the game would be completely silent, noting, "Ambient noise is one of the main ways to immerse people psychologically. A dark room is spooky, but adding a creaking floorboard and rats skittering in the walls and it becomes really creepy." Halo 2, unlike its predecessor, was mixed to take full advantage of Dolby 5.1 digital surround sound. In the summer of 2004, producer Nile Rodgers and O'Donnell decided to release the music from Halo 2 on 2 separate CDs. The first, Volume 1, would contain all the themes present in the game as well as music inspired by the game. The second would contain the rest of the music from the game, much of which was incomplete, as the first CD was shipped before the game was released. The first CD was released on November 9th, 2004, and featured guitar backing by Steve Vai. Additional tracks included various outside musicians, including Steve Vai, Incubus, Breaking Benjamin, and Hoobastank. The Halo 2 Original Soundtrack Volume 2 CD, containing the game music organized in suite form, was released on April 25, 2006. Halo 2 was officially announced in September 2002 with a cinematic trailer, scheduled for a holiday 2003 release. The first major look at the game came with the E3 2003 demo in May. Halo 2 was Microsoft's strongest showing at the event, and some journalists believed the game looked too good to be live gameplay. It must have been a scripted cutscene. After delays, the game was shifted to a first quarter 2004 release, then to holiday 2004. The final November 9th release date was confirmed at E3 2004, where the game's multiplayer was playable on the show floor. The demo showed off a new map, Zanzibar, an attack, defend, capture the flag mode, dual wheeling, and vehicle boarding. Microsoft executive Peter Moore rolled up his sleeve to reveal the date tattooed on his bicep. Microsoft intended to market Halo 2 not just as a video game, but as a cultural event. Part of its widespread appeal would come from the social nature of the game's multiplayer, but Microsoft also heavily promoted and marketed the game. A trailer for the game was shown in movie theaters, making Halo 2 the first video game so advertised. Hype for the title was fueled by the press, with Microsoft telling one journalist that their Halo 2 review would be the most consequential of their career. The marketing heavily focused on Master Chief and the defense of Earth, leaving the reveal of the Arbiter as a playable character a surprise. Halo 2's release was preceded with promotions and product tie-ins. There was a Halo 2 celebrity pre-release party at E3 2004, in which a private home was transferred to replicate the world of Halo, complete with camouflage marines and roaming Cortanas. Launch events were held worldwide, with players waiting in hours in a line that stretched 2 blocks in Times Square. The French version of the game leaked on the internet in October and circulated widely. In addition to more traditional forms of promotion, Halo 2 was also part of an elaborate alternate reality game project titled I Love Bees. Microsoft approached 42 Entertainment's Elon Lee, who had helped launch the Xbox with Microsoft, on producing a tie-in game. I Love Bees cost an estimated $1 million. The game centered on a hacked website, supposedly a site about beekeeping, where an AI from the future was residing. The project garnered significant attention, drawing away attention from the ongoing 2004 U.S. presidential election. The game I Love Bees won an award for creativity at the 5th Annual Game Developers' Choice Awards and was nominated for a Webby Award. Ultimately, nearly 3 million people participated in the game. Halo 2 was sold in a Standard Edition and Limited Collector's Edition. The Collector's Edition included the game, packaged in a metal case. It also includes bonus content on an extra DVD, such as a making-of documentary. The instructional booklet is also written from the Covenant point of view, rather than the UNSC point of view used in the regular edition. Halo 2 first released on November 9, 2004 in Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the United States. Anticipation for the game was high. A record 1.5 million copies were pre-ordered 3 weeks before release. Massive lines formed at midnight releases of the game at more than 7,000 stores across North America and attracted significant media attention. This was followed by releases on November 10, 2004 in France and parts of Europe, and November 11th in the UK, Japan, and elsewhere. The game released in 8 languages and a total of 27 countries. The game sold 2.4 million copies and earned up to $125 million in its first 24 hours on store shelves, outgrossing the film Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest as the highest-grossing release in entertainment history. The game sold 260,000 units in the United Kingdom in its first week, making it the 3rd fastest-selling title in that territory. It ultimately received a double platinum sales award from the Entertainment and Leisure Software Publishers Association, indicating sales of at least 600,000 copies in the United Kingdom. In the United States, it was the 2nd best-selling game of 2004 after Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, with sales of 4.2 million that year, and the 18th best-selling game of the 2000s decade. On release, Halo 2 was the most popular video game on Xbox Live, holding that rank until the release of Gears of War for the Xbox 360 nearly 2 years later. In the first 10 weeks of release, players collectively logged 91 million hours playing the game. By June 2006, more than 500 million games of Halo had been played, and more than 700 million hours logged on Xbox Live. Over 5 million players had played by 2007. Halo 2 is the best-selling first-generation Xbox game, with at least 6.3 million copies sold in the United States and 8.46 million copies in total. Halo 2 received critical acclaim upon release. On review aggregate site Metacritic, the Xbox version has an overall score of 95 out of 100. Critics judged it a worthy successor to the acclaimed Combat Evolved. GameSpot's Greg Kasavin wrote that the game successfully built on its predecessor's foundation, and despite shortcomings, the game's breadth of content made it one of the best action games available. The game's audio-visual presentation was praised. Multiplayer especially was noted in being the best on Xbox Live at the time. Game Informer, along with numerous other publications, rated it higher than Halo Combat Evolved, citing enhanced multiplayer and less repetitive gameplay. Most critics noted that Halo 2 stuck with the formula that made its predecessor successful and was alternatively praised and vaulted for this decision. Edge's review concluded that Halo 2 could be summed up with a line from its script: "It's not a new plan, but we know it will work." The campaign mode received some criticism for being too short and for featuring an abrupt cliffhanger ending. GameSpot noted that although the story switching between the Covenant and human factions made the plot more intricate, it distracted the player from Earth's survival in the main point of the game, while Edge labeled the plot a, quote, confusing mess of fan fiction sci-fi and bemusing Episode 2 style politics. Halo 2 won multiple awards at the 8th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards, including Console Game of the Year, Console First Person Action Game of the Year, Outstanding Achievement in Online Gameplay, and Outstanding Achievement in Sound Design, as well as nominations for Outstanding Innovation in Console Gaming and Game of the Year. The game received more than 38 individual awards. It received runner-up placements in GameSpot's 2004 Best Shooter, Best Sound Effects, and Best Original Music categories across all platforms. The game was listed in Electronic Gaming Monthly's The Greatest 200 Video Games of Their Time in 2006. Halo 2's multiplayer suffered from widespread cheating on release. Some players used standbying or lag killing to cheat, where the player hosting the game intentionally pressed the standby button on his or her modem. This resulted in all other players freezing in place and allowing the cheater to kill other players or capture objectives. Another exploit, called BXR, allowed players to cancel melee animations and quickly attack for an instant kill. Rather than relying solely on user reports of misbehavior, Bungie leveraged its game statistics collection to proactively find cheating players, creating an automated banning system. Bungie released several map packs for Halo 2, adding new environments for multiplayer matches. The multiplayer map pack, released July 5, 2005, made Xbox Live content and updates available to offline players. The disc contains the game's software update, 9 new multiplayer maps, a making-of documentary, and a bonus cinematic called Another Day on the Beach, among other features. The Blastacular map pack contained 2 additional maps and released April 2007. On July 7th, Bungie made the Blastacular map pack free. Halo 2 is one of the Xbox games that was backward compatible on the Xbox 360. On the newer console, the game runs at high-definition 720p with screen-wide anti-aliasing. The ability to download DLC for Halo 2 was discontinued when support for the original Xbox Live's games was terminated in 2010. In February 2006, Microsoft announced a PC port of Halo 2, exclusively for the Windows Vista operating system. Like the Xbox version, the release of Halo 2 Vista was repeatedly delayed. The May 22, 2007 release date was pushed to May 31st after the discovery of partial nudity in the game's map editor. A photograph of Charlie Gao, one of the lead engineers, mooning Steve Ballmer during his visit to the studio, was presented as part of the "Don't Ass" Allgemeine Scene Specification error message, displayed in the level editor when attempting to non-uniformly scale level geometry. Microsoft offered patches to remove the nude content and revised box ratings. The game could be enabled to play on Windows XP through an unauthorized third-party patch. The game offered live features not available in the Xbox version, such as guide support and achievements. The Windows port also added 2 exclusive multiplayer maps and a map editor. In July 2013, a blog post on Halo Waypoint indicated that online services for Halo 2 for Windows Vista would be shut down on February 15, 2013. This date was pushed back multiple times, and the server finally ceased operations in 2015. A high-definition remaster, titled Halo 2 Anniversary, was released as part of Halo the Master Chief Collection on November 11, 2014 for the Xbox One, later being released on PC for Steam and Windows Store. Halo 2's release was part of a shift towards blockbuster gaming releases. In 2004, the video game industry was estimated to gross $7.76 billion in the United States, behind the $9.4 billion gross of the domestic box office. Halo 2's success was seen by the press as evidence of a generational shift in entertainment. The CBC's Greg Bolton remarked that prior to Halo 2's splashy release, quote, the video game industry hadn't yet found a recognizable public face, a universally acclaimed megastar. The Ringer called Halo 2, quote, the birth of the video game as we know it today, a mass shared experience, and credited it with birthing modern multiplayer infrastructure and popularizing American esports. Halo 2's matchmaking technology was one of the turning points in the gaming industry during the 2000s. setting a new standard for other games. G4 Sterling McGarvey wrote that, quote, Bungie's sequel was a shot in the arm for Xbox Live subscriptions and previewed many of the features that would set the standard for Microsoft's online service in the next machine. Critics credited the game with bringing online multiplayer to the console masses and is serving as Xbox Live's killer app. The Providence's Paul Chapman wrote that games like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 would not be enjoyable if not for the ground Halo 2 broke. Halo 3 is a 2007 first-person shooter video game developed by Bungie for the Xbox 360 console and the third installment in the Halo franchise. The game features vehicles, weapons, and gameplay elements familiar and new to the series, as well as the addition of saved gameplay films, file sharing, and the Forge map editor, utility which allows the player to perform modifications to multiplayer levels. Halo 2 was a critical and commercial success, but its development had taken a toll on Bungie. The game's development was fraught and rushed, resulting in the final act of the game's campaign being cut. Bungie was openly critical of the game's shortcomings and viewed a third Halo game as a chance to do right by fans for Halo 2's problems, as well as the final Halo game the studio would make before moving on to other projects. Lingering dissatisfaction with Bungie's acquisition by Microsoft in 2000 and a desire for more favorable profit sharing on Halo 3 led to an agreement where Bungie would become an independent studio after shipping a set number of new Halo games. After Halo 2 shipped, Bungie co-founder Jason Jones went on sabbatical, leaving the Halo 3 team with little direction or leadership. Different staff members wrestled over who would take on creative positions for the game, and no clear creative direction was decided upon. Story writer Joseph Staten took a vacation after coming into conflict with other staff members, meaning there was no clear person who was responsible for the game's story for a portion of development. The story was drafted by a committee, then presented to senior Bungie members. Composer Martin O'Donnell recalled he did not feel the draft would work, as it left out previous characters and plot threads. Having recently seen the film Serenity, he insisted the characters should die to increase the stakes. Staten refused to do edits after the plot had been established. Halo 2 had popularized online multiplayer matchmaking and social features, like player parties and voice chat. The Xbox 360 integrated many similar features onto Xbox Live, but changed the underlying system. Designer Max Oberman recalled that instead of creating new features, he spent a year fixing broken features to get back to parity with Halo 2. Compared to the harried pace of Halo 2's development, which necessitated painful cuts to ship the game on time, Bungie staffers recalled Halo 3's development as much more smooth, with more time to add features like Forge Mode. The multiplayer map design team, led by Chris Carney and Steve Cotton, had plenty of time to prototype and playtest new designs and concepts to build a stable foundation of ideas for future maps. Many of those early prototypes led to some of the most iconic multiplayer maps in the Halo series. Bungie remained quiet as to what their new project was, leaving comments in their weekly update alluding to a new project. The game was officially announced with a real-time cinematic trailer at E3 2006. In comparison with Halo 2's tight-lipped development, Bungie was more transparent about the process for Halo 3. Bungie kept the public informed on game development via weekly updates on their website. During development, the game was divided into single-player and multiplayer builds. This made debugging and testing the much smaller multiplayer files quicker. While details of Halo 3's multiplayer were widely disseminated in the 16 months leading up to the release, the single-player aspect of the storyline was kept relatively secret throughout much of the development to build up interest. The first campaign screenshots did not appear until a year after the announcement trailer on July 5, 2007, as a tease for the planned pace of marketing. A public beta test of the game's online multiplayer features, as well as saved films and file share, took place 4 months before their full release. It consisted of 3 multiplayer maps: High Ground, Valhalla, and Snowbound. Access to the beta required a crackdown disk. AI behavior was enhanced and improved. The behavior of enemy brutes the player faces was modified, giving them a pack mentality that causes the aliens to perform similar actions at the same time and altering gameplay. Halo 3 uses a proprietary in-house graphics engine. It employs graphics technologies such as high dynamic range, global lighting, and depth of field effects within cutscenes. Motion blurring was absent from the beta, but it was added to the final game. Most dynamic objects in the game cast real-time shadows on themselves and the environment around them, including the game's plant life. Halo 3 uses normal, bump, and parallax mapping to give surfaces more detail without dramatically increasing the number of polygons. Players can see distances up to 10 miles away, all fully three-dimensional. The engine is capable of real-time reflections, but are often unused as Bungie considered it a waste of resources. Halo 3 uses 2 frame buffers instead of the usual single buffer, allowing Bungie to preserve as much of dynamic range as possible for the game's lighting without adversely affecting the frame rate. As a consequence, the game natively renders at 1152x64 resolution instead of 720p. The image can be upscaled to 1080p by the Xbox 360. Halo 3 has been enhanced for Xbox One X, rendering at 1920p upscaled to 2160p in HDR at a solid 30 FPS. As with all titles on the Xbox 360, Halo 3 fully supports 5.1 surround sound audio. In the game, there are over 50,000 pieces of audio, with nearly 40,000 of those being NPC dialogue. This is far more than in either of the preceding Halo titles. Halo 2 had over 15,000 pieces of dialogue. The AI controlling this dialogue is designed to ensure the exchanges flow naturally and convincingly. Separate recordings were made for nearby and distant gunfire to make for a more believable sound experience in the public beta, and the finished game uses Wave audio plugins to modify dialogue and other audio in-game, depending on conditions. Distant gunfire sounds, which may first seem like pre-recorded ambient sound, may be the result of an actual firefight happening elsewhere in the game. Marty O'Donnell, again, composed the original score for the game. Some pieces of the game's music are produced with a much larger real orchestra than any pieces in the prior 2 games. For example, the music in the announcement trailer was recorded with a 60-piece orchestra and a 24-piece choir. The Halo 3 original soundtrack was released on November 20th, 2007. Included on the soundtrack is an original composition submitted by fans and judged by Nile Rodgers, Michael Austin, and Marty O'Donnell. Voice actors returning to reprise their roles in Halo 3 include Jen Taylor as Cortana, David Scully as Sergeant Johnson in the Elite, Keith David as the Arbiter, Tim Dabu as 343 Guilty Spark, Ron Perlman as Lord Hood, Robert Davi as Ratarsh Vardam, and Steve Downes as the voice of Master Chief. The game also features new voices, with Terrence Stamp and Justice Bolding replacing Halo 2 voice actors Michael Wincott and Julia Benz as the Prophet of Truth and Miranda Keyes, respectively. Additional voices include celebrity presenter Jonathan Ross, Nathan Fillion, Adam Baldwin, Alan Took, Katie Sackhoff, and John DiMaggio. Members of the Halo Machinima Red vs. Blue, Bernie Burns, Gus Arala, Matt Cullum, Jason Saladana, Jeff Ramsey, and Joe Heyman have cameo roles. The first-person shooter video game Halo 3 was the focus of an extensive marketing campaign, which began with the game's developer Bungie announcing the game via a trailer at the Electronic Entertainment Expo E3 in May 2006. Microsoft, the game's publisher, planned a 5-pronged marketing strategy to maximize sales and to appeal to casual and hardcore gamers. Bungie produced trailers and video documentaries to promote the game, partnering with firms such as Digital Domain and Weta Workshop. Licensed products include action figures, toys, and Halo 3 branded soda released in anticipation of the game. The franchise utilized more than 40 licenses to promote the game, and the advertising campaign ultimately cost more than $40 million. While Halo 2's release had set industry standards, the mainstream press was not fully involved in covering the game. Part of Microsoft's strategy was to fully involve casual readers and the press in the story. The saturation of advertising promotions led Wired to state, quote, "The release of Halo 3 this week was an event that stretched far beyond our little gaming world. Everyone from the New York Times to Mother Jones wanted to cover it." Released on September 25, 2007, Halo became the biggest entertainment debut in history, earning more than $170 million in a few days and selling a record 3,300,000 copies in its first week of sales alone. Halo 3's marketing won several awards and was cited as evidence of the increasingly mainstream popularity of games. Jarrett West, a product manager for Microsoft, said at a marketing conference that Halo 3's marketing team had a mandate from Microsoft executive Peter Moore: "Don't screw up." Much of the marketing organization was handled by Microsoft's former corporate vice president of global marketing, Jeff Bell. A key challenge the team identified early on was that core gamers knew the game coming out, but there was a perception problem. Quote, "We wanted to invite people into the console and into Xbox 360 and to play Halo 3 as a mass-market entertainment product," according to product manager Chris Lee. Since Halo 3 was released as an Xbox 360 exclusive, part of the marketing push was to sell more Xbox consoles, which had encountered sluggish sales. Microsoft planned advertising and promotions to appeal to both casual and hardcore gamers in a 5-pronged marketing strategy. The first stage was to kick off marketing via a television commercial. The second stage was a beta test of the game to drive pre-orders and press attention. The third stage was the start of an alternate reality game. The fourth phase was partner promotions, capped off with a final advertising campaign titled Believe. Though Microsoft used forms of viral marketing for promotion, including the alternative reality game, or ARG, the main focus of the company's efforts was traditional media outlets. Because there was already interest in the title among the gaming community, Microsoft did not feel the need to run a social media campaign, instead banking on the gaming community to spread the word itself. The focus on traditional media would help expand the fan base beyond established gamers and convince the public that the game was a cultural milestone. To build public interest, Microsoft made public statements that Halo 3 would surpass media sales records, including the July 2007 record of 166 million set by the launch of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Microsoft's target was to sell 1.5 million copies of the game. Marketing research suggested that the Halo faithful could only be counted on to buy 75% of that amount, meaning that 375,000 copies would have to be sold to non-fans. Thus, marketing goals were to attract an audience beyond the Halo Nation and to break sales records. In short, to make Halo a true cultural phenomenon. The team upped their goals to not only selling the target number of copies, but making Halo 3 the biggest entertainment launch ever. A significant form of marketing was done by the release of videos. While Bungie often partnered with other companies to create advertisements, they also produced their own video documentaries, or VIDOCs, detailing the behind-the-scenes development of aspects of Halo 3, including redesigning enemy brutes, additions to multiplayer, and other game features. The first VIDOC was released shortly after the game's announcement and was a making-of style video, while the final VIDOC made its debut on September 20th, 2007. Halo 3 was officially announced via a cinematic trailer rendered in real time, shown at Microsoft's press conference at E3 2006 on May 9th. The trailer is set in the dry plains of Africa, with the ruins of a space elevator and other damage visible. The Master Chief is slowly revealed, walking through smoke and dust, occasionally obscured by distorted images of the artificial intelligence Cortana, transmitting a message composed of portions of the main character's lines in the Cortana letters, as well as a line from the poem The Hollow Men. The distorted voice of Cortana was a deliberate clue to the character's predicament in Halo 3, with a Bungie staff member stating, quote, "We don't know what has happened to her. We don't know it's Cortana. It could be any sort of bizarre, almost satanic sort of voice. Something seems wrong." The trailer featured music by Martin O'Donnell, with the addition of a piano and brass section to the classic Halo theme. Advertising company McCain Erickson created a second trailer that was aired only once on December 4th, 2006. The video used a mix of computer-generated graphics and live action. Computer graphics were produced by Digital Domain and directed by Joseph Konosky. The spot, dubbed Starry Night, was seen by 7.9 million viewers in its broadcast and watched more than 3.5 million times on YouTube by September 2007. The final trailer, shown during E3 2007 on July 11th, consisted of actual campaign cinematics and gameplay. The video teasers for Halo 3 included a series of videos directed by Neil Blomkamp, the proposed director of a possible Halo film produced by Peter Jackson. Unlike previous trailers and videos, the shorts were first to depict the Halo universe in a live-action setting. The production was a collaboration between Weta Workshop, Neil Blomkamp, and Bungie. When asked about the shorts, Neil said that he hoped it would help interest movie studios in his currently inactive movie project, since it lost its studio support in October 2006. Game Trailers released a compilation of the 3 videos edited together, titling it Landfall. The first live-action video, titled Arms Race, was originally shown at E3 2007. It was followed up by another short, Combat, which featured Covenant and human vehicles and weapons. The final video in the series aired on October 4th, 2007, and was used by Discovery Channel to promote their reality show Last One Standing. The short ties the events depicted to the beginning of Halo 3, which begins as the Master Chief plummets to Earth. The last major advertising campaign before and during Halo 3's release was a series of videos marketed with the tagline Believe, beginning September 11th, 2007. These videos, with an estimated cost of $10 million, were directed by Rupert Sanders, known for video game advertisements, and made to depict a generic representation of a single battle in Halo 3. Live-action videos featured elderly war veterans at the Museum of Humanity, reminiscing about the Human Covenant War and the role of the Master Chief. The Believe website allowed visitors to pan the length of a massive diorama, over 1,200 feet in size and over 12 feet tall, with handcrafted human and Covenant figures represented at 1/12 scale. According to Microsoft, the unusual presentation of a model, rather than computer graphics, was chosen to look at the themes that lie at the heart of the Halo trilogy: war, duty, sacrifice, and most importantly, the heroism of Master Chief. The musical score for the Museum of Humanity video is a selection entitled For All of Us. It was composed for the video by Jay Green with Big Science Music. The diorama was built through a collaboration between Los Angeles, California-based New Deal Studios and Stan Winston Studios. Director Rupert Sanders had actors stand in for the Marines, capturing their facial expressions and using them as the basis of the miniatures. Character assets from Bungie, including alien models and armor, were recreated and rebuilt for reuse. The Twisted City ruins the diorama is set in were inspired by bombed-out Afghanistan suburbs. Special attention was paid to creating a photorealistic setting, which was recognizably Halo. On April 10, 2007, Bungie announced that a beta test of the multiplayer component of Halo 3 would run from May 16th to June 6th, open to select members of the public. Players could enter the beta in several ways. Testers were selected from those who signed up on the Halo3.com website following the Starry Night commercial, or from the first 13,333 players to register after playing 3 hours of Halo 2 on Xbox Live. Players could also buy a specially marked copy of the Xbox 360 title Crackdown, which allowed players to download the beta upon its release. The public portion of the beta consists of matchmaking play on 3 multiplayer maps: Valhalla, High Ground, and Snowbound. The public beta also contained a limited version of the Saved Films feature, which allows players to save and watch their played games. The day the public beta began, problems were reported from owners of Crackdown that they could not download the beta. Bungie announced that the Microsoft team found a solution and that the issue would be resolved shortly. A patch was distributed for Crackdown that fixed the problem. Bungie also extended the beta until June 10th to compensate for the issue. According to Jarrett West, Global Group Product Manager, allowing users into the beta created a psychological investment in the game. Quote, "The idea was basically to make the beta launch huge and let the tastemakers make the launch for you, to really drive it beyond the gaming press. The beta caused a spike in pre-orders for the retail version of the game. A component of Halo 3's marketing was an ARG called Iris. Alternate reality games, which involve cross-media gameplay and player participation, have been previously used for the promotion of Halo 2 in the form of influential and award-winning I Love Bees. Soon after the Halo 3 public beta ended, a user named Adjutant Reflex appeared in the official Halo 3 forums on Bungie and began posting. A Circuit City advertisement was leaked onto the web days earlier, revealing the web address of an interactive comic which could be manipulated to reveal the IP addresses of another series of sites. One website was the home of the Society of the Ancients, a group supposedly interested in evidence of Forerunner artifacts left on Earth. Another featured a Forerunner object which gradually revealed text logs and video clips. The launch of Halo 3 coincided with the release of various games, action figures, and collectible toys. WizKids developed a Clicks collectible miniatures game entitled Halo Action Clicks, which was released on September 18, 2007. The tabletop game features miniature figures from the Halo universe, including characters and vehicles. Halo Action Clicks figures were occasionally bundled with the game in promotional packs, and GameStation stores in the United Kingdom offered a Master Chief figurine to the first 1,000 pre-orders of the Halo 3 Legendary Edition. While previous Halo action figure series were produced by Joyride Studios, Todd McFarlane produced several sets of Halo 3 related action figures. In addition to articulated figures released throughout 2008, McFarlane also released 12-inch inarticulate and more detailed figurines in November. Microsoft collaborated with other companies to produce Halo-themed merchandise and promotions at retailers and vendors. PepsiCo created a variant of Mountain Dew called Game Fuel. 7-Eleven sold a Slurpee version of the drink. Burger King announced a special promotion starting September 24, 2007, featuring Halo designs and characters on food wrappings. Microsoft sponsored the number 40 car driven by David Stream for Chip Ganassi Racing in the Dover 400 Nextel Cup Series. The race car featured a Halo 3 inspired paint job, featuring the title for the game printed prominently on the hood and rear bumper, as well as a large picture of Master Chief on each of the rear fenders. The game's final testing copy before its gold release, codenamed Epsilon and confirmed by Bungie to be almost complete, was leaked onto the internet months before the game's release date. Microsoft reacted to this leak by having the Xbox Live accounts of gamers caught playing the leaked copy banned into the year 9999. Retail copies of the game, complete with photographs of the open game box, started to appear on the internet auction site eBay weeks before release, followed by UK catalog retailer Argos accidentally releasing some of their copies a week early. Microsoft's Entertainment and Devices division were quoted as being disappointed that the Argos leak happened, but stated they had no intention for punishing them for an honest mistake. The retail copy was also leaked online over a week before release, with the 6.14 gigabyte file of the game ripped from a disc and downloaded by thousands of people within 24 hours. Videos of the ending of Halo 3 obtained from the leaked copy were captured and posted on video sharing sites. Halo 3 was officially released on September 25, 2007 in 3 separate retail versions: Standard, Limited, and Legendary. The Standard Edition comes with a game disc, manual, and a small poster with the game's control map and artwork. The Limited Edition, contained in a metal case, contains the game disc, manual, poster, Xbox 360 bonuses with featurettes, and a hardbound bestiarium, a collection of information and art covering the species, cultures, and civilizations of Halo 3. The Legendary Edition contains the game disc, manual, poster, interactive bonus disc, the bestiarium on a DVD, Legendary DVD containing exclusive content, and a scale replica of the Master Chief's helmet, as a case for the 3 discs. The slipcover packaging unfolds into a large, heavy stock poster of Master Chief. Some of the limited edition versions of Halo 3 were found to have had a defect in the hub that keeps the discs in place, which could lead to scratched discs. Microsoft introduced a disc replacement program in response. On the day before its official release, 4.2 million units of Halo 3 were in retail outlets. More than 10,000 retail stores in the United States held midnight launch parties for Halo's release, in addition to other locations around the globe. Microsoft coordinated its own multi-city launch parties, and had Bungie staff members travel across the world to host the parties, in addition to a launch party held at Bungie's workplace. Larry Herb attended the New York City launch party. Sponsored launches featured prize giveaways and chances for fans to play Halo against celebrities and Bungie team members. The BFI IMAX Theater in London was devoted to Halo 3, while some areas in the United Kingdom canceled midnight launches, fearing unruliness from the large crowds. Halo 3 was phenomenally successful upon release. The game made $170 million in US sales on the first day of release, generating more money in 24 hours than any other American entertainment property up to that point. Halo would make an additional $130 million by week's end and sell 3.3 million units by the end of the month. By 2008, Halo 3 had sold 4.8 million units in the United States, for a total of 8.1 million units worldwide, making it the best-selling game of 2007 in the United States. Critics and publications pointed to the massive marketing and launch of Halo 3 as evidence that video games had finally hit the mainstream. Video game critic Steve West of Cineblend.com pointed out the Halo 3 phenomenon as evidence of the mainstreaming of video games, stating that, quote, like movies and radio and television before, games are becoming more and more accepted in popular culture. To capitalize on the mainstream attention, Joystick's sister site Xbox 360 Fanboy noted, quote, Microsoft contends that such a marketing push is necessary to maintain the appearance of a big-budget mass media event. At the PR Week Awards, Microsoft won the Technology Campaign of the Year, along with Edelman for Halo 3's launch. At the 2008 Andy Awards, the Believe campaign won the Grandy, the grand prize. Halo 3's advertising also won 5 Gold Cubes, 1 Silver Cube, and 2 Distinctive Merit Certificates at the Art Directors Club annual awards ceremony, most of the awards relating to the Believe campaign. Halo 3 was made a free download for Xbox Live Gold members through the Games with Gold program in October 2013. It became playable on the Xbox One via backwards compatibility in 2017. An Xbox One native version of the game, presenting the graphics at 1080p and 60 frames per second, was included as part of the Halo Master Chief Collection for the Xbox One in 2014. Halo 3 was re-released again as part of the Windows version of the Master Chief Collection in 2020. Halo 3 supports multiplayer map downloadable content, as well as game updates via Xbox Live. The first 3 post-release multiplayer maps, Standoff, Rat's Nest, and Foundry, were released as a pack on December 11, 2007, collectively known as the Heroic Map Pack. A second group of 3 maps, including a remake of Halo 2 map Lockout, titled Blackout, a new map Ghost Town, and a remake of Halo Combat Evolved map Sidewinder, titled Avalanche, were bundled as the Legendary Map Pack on April 15, 2008. These maps introduced visual filters to the Forge palette, which changed the way the maps look. A remake of the Halo Combat Evolved map Chillout, titled Code Storage, was released as a free download on Bungie Day, July 7, 2008. The third multiplayer map pack, titled the Mythic Map Pack, consisting of the maps Orbital, Assembly, and Sandbox, was included with the limited collector's edition of Halo Wars. The map pack was released over the Xbox Live Marketplace on April 9, 2009. The fourth and final multiplayer map pack, Mythic 2 Map Pack, was released on February 2, 2010. The map pack includes the 3 new maps from the Halo 3 ODST, Citadel, Longshore, and a remake of Halo 2 map Midship titled Heretic. The first version update for Halo 3 was released on February 19, 2008, and addressed various bugs such as melee contest resolution and saved film theater errors. The next update, called a title update, was released September 23, 2008, and includes new achievements, a new XP ranking system, and various new ways to detect and stop cheating in the game. No further Halo 3 updates were planned. First day sales of Halo 3 reached $170 million in the US, setting a record for highest gross of a video game within 24 hours of its release. The performance beat the previous record setter, Halo 2, which earned $125 million within 24 hours of its launch. The game was pre-ordered by more than 1 million people in North America. Worldwide, more than $300 million were sold in the first week, helping to more than double the sales of the Xbox 360 when compared with the weekly average before the Halo 3 launch. By 2010, Microsoft reported total grosses at $600 million. In the US, Halo 3 sold 3.3 million copies in its first 12 days on sale, increasing to 3.7 million copies by November 15, 2007. Reuters UK estimated that Halo 3 may have sold up to 5.2 million copies worldwide in the first 2 weeks after launch. By November 30th, 2007, Halo 3 had sold 5 million copies worldwide, and as of that point was the best-selling video game of 2007 in the US, even though the game was only available on one console. On January 3, 2008, Microsoft announced that Halo 3 had sold 8.1 million copies. The game drew over 1 million Xbox Live members to play online in the first 20 hours, making it the biggest day for Xbox Live gaming in history. The game returned to the top 20 sales charts more than a year after its release in February 2009. Game of Sutra reported the boost might have been due to the release of Halo Wars. According to Microsoft, Halo 3 had sold 14.5 million copies as of 2012. In the US, the game was the best-selling video game of 2007 and the 14th best-selling game of the 2000s decade. Advertising Age reported that movie studio executives were convinced the release of Halo 3 harmed box office receipts. The week's take was 27% less than the previous year's yield. While some executives cited the disparity in estimated and actual gross for films like The Heartbreak Kid was due more to the film's poor reception, other analysts believe that the audience on Halo 3 is the 18 to 34 demographic, similar to what you see in cinemas, and that this led to a decrease in receipts. Later research suggested that the Halo 3 players still watched the same amount of television and movies, regardless of the time they spent playing the game. Halo 3 received critical acclaim upon its release. It holds an average of 94 out of 100 on aggregate website Metacritic. ProG's Wesley Yen Poole assured readers that Halo 3 lived up to the enormous hype surrounding it, writing that the game was, quote, everything we hoped it would be and much, much more. Reviewers including Eurogamer's Rob Fay, GamesRadar Charlie Barrett, and GameSpot's Jeff Gersman felt that the underlying formula of previous Halo games was unchanged, but this was not a detriment. Quote, every type of Halo fan, from the hardcore to the casual to the brand new, will find something to satisfy them in Master Chief's third adventure, Barrett asserted, while IGN's Hillary Goldstein referred to Halo 3 as, quote, the most complete game available on any console, specifically stating the Forge and replay functionality raised the bar for console shooters so high it may never be surpassed this generation. The gameplay additions to the game, such as equipment and new vehicles, were praised. Gersman and Goldstein noted that the equipment had much more relevance in multiplayer matches than the campaign. Reception of the single-player aspect varied. Yen Poole wrote that while the cliffhanger ending of Halo 2 was disappointing, the campaign of Halo 3 was much more satisfying. Gersman, GameSpy's Gabe Garazi, and Goldstein maintained that the campaign was too short, specifically on easier difficulties or with 3 additional players in co-op. Goldstein was highly critical of the 8th level, stating, quote, the penultimate chapter is so bad, just thinking about it puts a rotten taste in my mouth. The New York Times' Charlie Herald said that the game had a throwaway plot, and Total Video Games judged the single-player aspect ultimately disappointing. Goldstein and Steve West of Cinema Blend thought a part of the game's story was lost by not having the Arbiter featuring as prominently as the character was in Halo 2. Most publications agreed that multiplayer was by far one of the best features. IGN said that the multiplayer map lineup was the strongest of the series, and GameSpy added that, quote, each multiplayer map is extremely well tuned. The Forge level editor and saved films features were singled out as particularly strong features in addition to the voice acting and score. Other complaints focused on the artificial intelligence. Critics praised the enemy AI, but complained that the intelligence of the player's allies was far poor. Brand Vore of Game Informer said that human faces and some textures were just embarrassing. Halo 3 was nominated for 7 awards from the Spike TV Awards, of which it won Best Multiplayer Game and Most Addictive Video Game Fueled by Dew. It also won Times Game of the Year, and IGN chose it as the Best Xbox 360 Online Multiplayer Game and Innovative Design of 2007. The Visual Effects Society awarded Bungie the Best Real-Time Visuals in a Video Game for Halo 3. Halo 3 also took the Calvin Award for Best Video Game, as selected by Box Office Profits. Halo 3 also took the award for Xbox 360 Game of the Year 2007 from Game Trailers, and was voted by fans as Game of the Year on G4ia. Halo 3 won the Edge Award for Interactive Innovation in August 2008. During the 11th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards, the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences nominated Halo 3 for Action Game of the Year and Outstanding Achievement in Online Gameplay. In 2010, the game was included as one of the titles in the book 1001 Video Games You Must Play Before You Die. In 2025, GameStop selected Halo 3 as its inaugural Best Game of the Year, despite the game being released in 2007. Halo 3 ODST is a 2009 first-person shooter video game developed by Bungie and published by Microsoft Game Studios. The 5th installment in the Halo franchise, it was released on the Xbox 360 in September 2009. Players assume the roles of United Nations Space Command Marines, known as Orbital Drop Shock Troopers, or ODSTs, during and after the events of Halo 2 and before the events of Halo 3. In the game's campaign mode, players explore the ruined city of New Mombasa to discover what happened to their missing teammates in the midst of an alien invasion. In the Firefight cooperative multiplayer option, players battle increasingly difficult waves of enemies to score points and survive as long as possible. The game also contains the entirety of Halo 3's multiplayer on a separate disc. Much of ODST's development team started work on director Peter Jackson's Halo Chronicles video game during the production of Halo 3. However, the failure of a Halo film adaptation and the subsequent cancellation of Chronicles meant a sizable team no longer had a project. Around the same time, production for Halo Reach began, and Bungie realized that there was a window of time for the studio to create a new product, what producer Curtis Creamer described as a 2 to 3 hour mini-campaign. After looking at the proposal and the budget, studio head Harold Ryan gave the go-ahead. With the game engine already assembled, the team began honing the concept. Bungie was interested in bringing changes to the classical Halo format, which had remained essentially unchanged over 3 games. The developers spent weeks considering what characters they wanted to focus on. Having players control previous protagonists, such as the Master Chief or Arbiter, would have brought with it story baggage and expectations. At one point, they considered making the game a Covenant-themed story about an elite strike force. Instead, the developers looked at human characters. While they considered Avery Johnson, they settled on the ODSTs. Bungie community director Brian Jarrett explained the ODSTs have always been fan favorites. Story director Joseph Staten said, "We never really got inside the ODSTs," and he saw the game as an opportunity to flesh out the black armored soldiers. Making the player an ODST required gameplay changes to preserve the classic Halo gameplay formula while branching it in new directions. The addition of silenced weapons and a revamped pistol were attempts to split the functionality of Halo 2 and Halo 3's battle rifle weapon and give the ODSTs unique armaments. The sound designers increased the loudness of the game's submachine gun to make it feel more powerful. The health mechanism was added to provide a level of tension. Staten said, "It reminds you that you're vulnerable." With the main characters in place, the development team had to decide on a setting. Jarrett said, "The events that unfolded on Earth is something fans still clamor for after being shortchanged in Halo 2. Fans wanted to know what happened back on Earth and how humanity was defending it." New Mombasa's urban environments fit the intended feel of the game, as Bungie felt that the change of protagonists required a change in location. Staten explained, quote, "We know the kinds of problems Master Chief solves. He goes to ancient alien ring artifacts, fights galaxy-consuming parasitic alien monsters, and destroys alien empires. The ODST, they may take small parts in that larger struggle, but the kinds of fights that they usually get into are usually the kind of fights that they can tackle in a day." Returning to a previous setting offered the artist new challenges and opportunities to expand the scope of the city. Having the player walk through the streets at night inspired a film noir ambiance. Color shifts and a high degree of contrast pushed the game's look beyond what previous Halo games had offered, but the team had to make sure that even dark portions of the city were playable. The entire core development team looked at commissioned concept paintings to decide how lighting schemes would affect the gameplay. The genre also influenced the character names and archetypes. The player character, for example, fits the concept of a lone, hard-boiled detective. To increase the depth of the surroundings, Bungie added touches such as advertisements, trash collectors, and civilian versions of previously seen military hardware. Bungie began development of ODST in March 2008. ODST was the first Bungie title completed in less than 3 years, as production lasted 14 months. Since the team, numbering around 70, plus a 5-person core design group, had such a small window for development, they had to prioritize features. For example, rather than completely redesigning the enemies, only a small new subset of artificial intelligence behaviors were added. Because the game featured an open world different from most Halo missions, certain gameplay tweaks, such as the revamped weapons and an overhead map, were necessary. Whereas in a traditional Halo game, the designers would know what locations players would approach groups of enemies from, ODST required a different strategy. Creamer said, quote, "We had to make sure we had groups of Covenant patrolling the city who could react from wherever you attack from and look intelligent doing it." Though the game engine remained unchanged, graphical enhancements such as full-screen shader system and parallax mapping added greater detail and realism. The Firefight game mode was a late addition to the game. Staffer Tim Williams built a prototype shortly after Halo 3 shipped, placing the player in a portion of a Halo 3 campaign map and fighting enemies. When development commenced on ODST, Williams' concept was adopted for the game and refined. Designer Lars Bakken described one advantage of the game mode as providing a more friendly multiplayer environment than hardcore players online. The designers reused the campaign scoring and medal system from Halo 3 to add a competitive edge. Sadie's story was created by Fourth Wall Studios in partnership with Staten and artist Ashley Wood. Fourth Wall Studios was formed by former members of 42 Entertainment to produce the highly successful I Love Bees alternative reality game to promote Halo 2. Staten recalled, quote, "We realized that in Halo we do a pretty good job of describing the clash of these military-industrial complexes, but it really is the soldier story. And Halo 3 ODST offered a chance to take a look at the unexplored civilian story." By December 2008, the game was representational, meaning that players could experience the game from start to finish, albeit in an unfinished state. The entire Bungie staff was pulled from other duties to play through the game and offer feedback. Among the unfinished elements was the lack of finished dialogue delivered by voice actors, in which Staten filled in placeholder audio. The entire game was completed just before its presentation at the Electronic Entertainment Expo E3 2009. Bungie's audio director, Martin O'Donnell, and his partner Michael Salvatore composed the music for ODST. In contrast to Halo's signature Gregorian chant, there is no choral music in ODST, and no previous Halo themes make a return appearance. 2 of the game's 3 hours of music were packaged in a 2-disc soundtrack released September 22, 2009. Due to ODST's shift to a new protagonist, O'Donnell wanted to create new music that was evocative of Halo but branched in a different direction. Because the game tells a human story, not a cyborg story, O'Donnell said, the score was more intimate and personal. For the rookie's rain-slicked investigations, O'Donnell felt that a jazz-influenced approach worked best in echoing the noir atmosphere. Other characters did not have any themes written specifically for them, but became paired with motifs that suited them. O'Donnell began writing the game's music while Bungie was crafting the ODST announcement trailer. O'Donnell based the trailer's music on a small segment from the first ODST piece he wrote, titled Rain. Salvatore joined the project in February 2009 and helped complete the music chores in 2 months. Once O'Donnell felt they had enough material, the Chicago-based Salvatore flew to Seattle, Washington, finishing arrangements and recording live musicians. Most of the music was recorded during early 2009. Additional compositional duties were handled by Bungie sound director C. Paul Johnson and orchestrator Stan Lepard. The Northwest Sinfonia, which recorded the music for Halo 3, performed orchestral sections at Studio X in Washington. Members of Bungie were fans of the television series Firefly, and Halo 3's development brought in several of the actors to fill Marine voice roles. 3 of them voiced the 4 main characters of the ODST squad: Nathan Fillion, a Halo fan himself, Adam Baldwin, and Alan Took. Tricia Helfer provided the voice for the Oni agent Dare. Helfer and Fillion recorded their cinematic dialogue together in the same room, a rarity in voice acting. Staten said that, quote, their performances were stronger having them together at the same time. While Staten wrote much of the cinematic dialogue, combat lines could be improvised by the voice actors. Adding Sadie's story to the game doubled the amount of voice work in the game. After the voice roles were filled, Bungie licensed Fillion and Helfner's likenesses for their respective characters. In July 2008, Microsoft head of Xbox business Don Matrick told MTV that Bungie was working on a new Halo game for Microsoft, independent of the franchise spin-offs Halo Wars and Chronicles. An announcement of the new Halo project was expected at the E3 2008 trade fair, with Bungie unveiling a countdown on their website, but the announcement was shelved by Microsoft. Microsoft stated that it wanted the game to have its own event. On September 25, 2008, a year after the release of Halo 3, Bungie debuted a teaser for the new project on their website. A full trailer was released during the Tokyo Game Show on October 9, 2008, officially unveiling the game's name as Halo 3 Recon and a release date of autumn 2009. In an unusual approach for Bungie, the trailer used pre-rendered graphics instead of the game engine or existing assets. Staten explained that it was too early in the game's development to spend a large amount of time on the trailer, and it would not have allowed Bungie to add touches for fans to discuss. In post-trailer interviews, Bungie staff members told Gaming Press that Recon was the last installment in the Halo trilogy. Though Bungie did not consider Recon a full game, with writer Luke Smith comparing it to Warcraft 3 expansion The Frozen Throne, the game shipped with all Halo 3 multiplayer maps and did not require Halo 3 to play. Smith asserted the game would not be a crossover into stealth and squad-based genres, noting, quote, this isn't Brother in Arms Halo or Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Halo. On November 25th, Gerard announced the game had been retitled to Halo 3 ODST as a more straightforward description of the game. Bungie and Microsoft first showed ODST in a playable form at E3 2009, where the game's release date and retail versions were finalized. Bungie initially marketed ODST as a title smaller in scope than previously numbered entries in the series. When the game's retail versions were announced, however, the game received a standard price of $60 USD, which Bungie and Microsoft attributed to the game's growing beyond the planned scope. Bungie's Lars Bakken said, quote, "Over the course of development, it got a lot bigger than we were anticipating. We thought of it more as an expansion, and then it grew well beyond that." Creamer explained that since the development platform was stable, quote, "We were able to create quite a bit more content than we originally thought we would. The game's length increased from original estimates of 3 to 5 hours to 8 to 10. The discrepancy was not discussed until E3 2009, when Microsoft decided it was a full game. Unlike the post-launch support for Halo 3, ODST does not have any downloadable content. Halo 3 ODST ships as a 2-disc set. The first disc contains the campaign mode as well as the firefight co-op mode, while the second disc contains the multiplayer mode with the complete set of Halo 3 maps. Owners of the game received an invitation to participate in the Halo Reach multiplayer beta, which went live on May 3, 2010. Pre-orders included a token to unlock Avery Johnson as a playable character in the Firefight multiplayer mode. This code was included only by certain retailers. A special edition collector's pack contained the game and a special ODST branded wireless Xbox 360 controller. Toys R Us offered an ODST action figure and a $20 USD gift card as a buying incentive. By April 2009, market research firm OTX reported that ODST was the most highly anticipated video game, a spot it continued to hold into late August. Before its release, the title was the top-selling game on Amazon.com based on pre-orders alone, spending 107 days atop the merchant's top 100 video games and software list. Copies of ODST were sold early in France. Microsoft responded by launching an investigation and threatening to ban any players on Xbox Live playing ODST before its official release. Xbox lead manager Stefan Toulouse later clarified that they would not ban legitimate buyers. Microsoft prepared what was described as a mammoth advertising campaign for the game, with entertainment director Stephen McGill affirming that the game is, quote, "absolutely a key title to us. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this, and Halo 3 ODST is a great way to kick it off." Numerous promotional materials were released through Xbox Live, and many more via online and television advertising. Marvel Comics published a limited comic series, Helljumper, featuring ODST's main characters. A live-action trailer titled The Life was posted on the internet in September and later used in television spots as part of the promotional material released for the game. Filmed at several locations in Budapest, Hungary, The Life follows an ODST named Tarkov from a military funeral where he was inspired to become a soldier through training and combat and up to the moment he becomes a leader in battle. The short film was created by advertising agency Tag SF with effects by Asylum, and directed by Rupert Sanders from production company MJZ, who also handled the award-winning Halo 3 Believe advertisement. Legacy Effects designed and fabricated props, weapons, armor, and a Covenant Brute costume within 2 weeks. Bungie supplied 3D geometry that allowed the company to quickly create accurate representations of in-game items and provided input on the UNSC dress uniforms. The initial cemetery scene was filmed inside the cooling tower of an active nuclear power plant in Budapest, and outside the tower the production team created a mud pit and obstacle course to simulate basic training. Members of the Hungarian Special Forces served as drill instructors in the training sequence, firing blanks. Finally, filming moved to an abandoned Soviet-era aluminum refinery for the short's final memorial scene. An additional scene was shot there, but it did not appear in the final product. ODST's launch events were held around the United States. Bungie and Microsoft sponsored an official launch event at the Experience Music Project and Science Fiction Museum and Hall of Fame in Seattle, Washington. Featured at the event were discussion panels around the series and advanced looks at other Halo content, such as the anime collection Halo Legends. About 800 fans attended from around 6 to 11 p.m. before heading to nearby game stores to buy their copy of the game. GameStop held almost 3,700 launch parties across the United States. On release, Halo 3 ODST became the top-selling Xbox 360 game worldwide. More than 2.5 million copies of the game were sold within 2 weeks of release, totaling more than $125 million in sales. ODST claimed the overall top spot in UK game sales, becoming the 12th highest sell-through for a single platform title in the market. ODST took the top spot on Australian game charts on release, and after being outsold by FIFA 10 in early October, reclaimed the bestseller position. In Japan, where first-person shooters have generally fared poorly, ODST sold 30,000 copies by September 27th. ODST sold 1.5 million units during September in the United States, the best-selling title for that month. In October, the game sold 271,000 units in North America, taking 6th place for game sales. Microsoft reported that ODST sold 3 million units worldwide by November. Overall, it was the 9th best-selling game of 2009 in the United States, one of only 2 Xbox 360 games to chart. Expecting sales of the game to increase as players wanted to access the Reach beta, UK retailers slashed its price in April 2010. The remastered campaign of Halo 3 ODST was released as downloadable content for Halo the Master Chief Collection on May 30th, 2015, and was free to all owners of said game that played from launch to December 19th, 2014. It is available to purchase separately to those who are not eligible for a free code for the add-on. ODST later launched on Windows as the penultimate installment of the Master Chief Collection on September 21st, 2020, alongside the addition of the Firefight multiplayer component for both Xbox One and PC. Halo 3 ODST garnered generally positive reviews and holds an average of 83 out of 100 on aggregate website Metacritic. Times' Lev Grossman wrote ODST was a milestone as it proved Bungie can use the same instruments to play in totally different key, adding to the longevity of the Halo franchise. In contrast, Pete Metzger of the Los Angeles Times wrote that although ODST was a good game with a compelling story, action, and graphics, quote, the same can be said for nearly every first-person shooter that is released these days, and that ODST failed to raise the bar set by previous Halo games. OneUp.com's Jeremy Parrish noted that while ODST had its flaws, its greatest success was bringing together players who preferred either the multiplayer or campaign portions with a game that would satisfy both camps. Critics were split on whether ODST was worth its price. Official Xbox Magazine critic Ryan McCaffrey confidently wrote that given the campaign, multiplayer mode, and second Halo 3 multiplayer disc, quote, no one should have any qualms about ODST's value as a $60 offering. Other critics who judged the title as a full game included the staff of Edge, Parrish, and Computer and Video Games Mike Jackson. Eric Brudvig of IGN did not consider ODST a true sequel, but more than an expansion, and recommended that those hesitant about buying the game do so. Those who disagreed included Ars Technica's Ben Kutra, Games Radar's Charlie Barrett, Eurogamer's Tom Bramwell, and IGN Australia's Naran Pattinson. In the New York Times, Seth Scheisel wrote that, quote, Microsoft Game Studios has overreached in trying to charge the typical retail price for a full game, around $60 USD, for a product that either should cost $40 USD or have a lot more content for the single-player aspect of the product. Critics also disagreed sharply regarding whether the game was a large step forward for the series. Parrish said that less enemy variety was balanced by changes he considered the most experimental things Bungie had done in years. Edge and Bramwell praised the contrast between the rookie's nighttime segments and the more fast-paced flashback vignettes. Edge added that while the narrative design was not groundbreaking, it served as a structure for exploring every possible weapon choice and strategy in the series. While Parrish considered the ODST's abilities much different from those of the Chief, other critics, such as Jackson, wrote that the Halo feel was barely changed and that this was not detrimental. Brett Molina of USA Today felt that the game disappointed by not spending more time in the rookie's open environment. Instead, Molina wrote, quote, roughly 2/3 of ODST's combat feels very much like a traditional Halo game, instead of exploring new mechanics. ODST's visuals and atmosphere were praised. McShay wrote that while the Halo 3 engine was showing its age, the game could still wow because of the art design. Parrish wrote that the feel of Mombasa changed dramatically when played cooperatively. G4TV found that additional players spoiled much of the solitary feel. Travis Moses of GamePro wrote that while the game's graphics were consistently outclassed by other shooters, the game's frame rate remained consistently high as expected from Halo games. Technology company Digital Foundry said that, despite welcome improvements in AI, the main flaws from Halo 3's graphics engine, namely a sub-720p native resolution and lower quality human faces, remained. The game's audio and sound were lauded. McCaffrey wrote that while the music of Halo 3 was too familiar, ODST had freed O'Donnell to craft his best work yet, which the critic considered good enough for a standalone purchase. A significant departure from the consensus was offered by Kuchier, who wrote that the saxophone touches, quote, sound like the softcore porn they show on Cinemax after midnight, and GameSpy's Anthony Gallegos, who felt that the music did not mesh when extended into combat sequences. Firefight was praised as addictive, especially for showcasing the excellent artificial intelligence of enemies. Jeff Marchafara of Game Informer credited the enemies with differentiating Firefight from similar game modes in games such as Gears of War 2 or Left 4 Dead, which featured mindless zombies or cannon fodder. The staff of official Xbox Magazine UK wrote that the game type's depth and options made Gears of War's comparable mode look simple in comparison, and that Firefight extended the life of the game. In contrast, Bramwell felt that in Firefight, quote, "There is both a sense of futility in the knowledge that death is only a matter of time and odds, and fatigue in the realization that many levels play out just as they did in the campaign, except a bit more so." Interviewed by G4TV, Bungie representatives saw part of the mixed and negative reception as stemming from their own marketing of the title, first as an expansion pack, then a full game. Quote, "If you look at the lower scores, they almost all cite an issue in perceived value based on an initial expectation that was set for an expansion, and then a feeling that they were overcharged for the final product," Gerard said, echoing Statton's comment that, quote, "If we never said the words expansion pack, we would have seen an appreciable increase in the review scores." Other elements they wish they had improved had they had the time were the pacing and navigation of the nighttime segments and matchmaking for Firefight. Halo manager 343 Industries director Frank O'Connor said that he was glad ODST didn't take off, in his view, because it allowed people to focus on Reach in its launch and marketing. Lev Grossman and Peter Ha ranked ODST as the 8th best game of the year for time, lauding the game as a dark, slow, jazzy, hard-boiled take on the Halo world. Softpedia branded ODST as the best first-person shooter game of the year. Games editor Andrei Dimitrescu wrote that while the game occasionally felt formulaic, it was bolstered by a good plot, great music, and supporting characters that players could care about. Chris Kohler from Wired ranked ODST as the 3rd best Xbox 360 title of the year, writing that the game, quote, "injected a fresh breath into the staid corridors of Bungie's shooter franchise." Halo 3 ODST won Best Original Score at the 2009 Spike Video Game Awards. The Life was awarded Outstanding Visual Effects in a Video Game Trailer by the Visual Effects Society at the group's 8th Annual Awards. Halo Reach is a first-person shooter video game developed by Bungie and published by Microsoft Game Studios. The 6th installment in the Halo series and a direct prequel to Halo Combat Evolved, Reach was released worldwide for the Xbox 360 console in September 2010. The game takes place in the year 2552, where humanity is locked in a war with an alien theocracy known as the Covenant, which seeks to exterminate humanity. Players play as Noble 6, a member of an elite squad of super soldiers known as Noble Team, attempting to stage a defense of the human world known as Reach, which falls under Covenant attack. Halo Reach was announced on June 1st, 2009, accompanied by a trailer at the Microsoft Electronic Entertainment Expo E3 press conference. A press release announced that an invitation to the open multiplayer beta of the game would appear in 2010. Reach is the final game in the Halo series developed by Bungie. Responsible for developing future Halo titles fell to Microsoft subsidiary 343 Industries, beginning with Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary in 2011. A trailer released March 3rd, 2010, showcased the game's multiplayer. Bungie revealed parts of the game's campaign and firefight at E3 2010. The game reached the zero bug release milestone on June 23rd, signifying a shift from content creation to troubleshooting. Buggy artificial intelligence or other elements would be removed rather than fixed at this point because of time constraints. Bungie released the complete list of achievements for the game on July 30th, including their titles, symbols, and requirements, and completed Reach between the end of July and the beginning of August 2010. After Halo 3, development studio Bungie created an internal team to work on Peter Jackson's planned Halo game, Halo Chronicles. The game was eventually cancelled and the team began working on a standalone expansion project, Halo 3 ODST, while another team, led by creative director Marcus Leto and design lead Christian Allen, worked on Reach. The team considered many different concepts and approaches to the game. Among the rejected ideas was a sequel to Halo 3. The team eventually settled on a prequel to the first Halo game in brainstorming sessions. It would take place on the planet Reach during a pivotal time in the war. Leto said, quote, "Reach, as a fictional planet, was just a great candidate to play around with. It's such a rich world with such a great fiction surrounding it. We were like, okay, that's it. We've just got a lot of things we can do there, so we can build an immense story with it." No longer burdened with continuing the story threads of the Halo trilogy, Bungie used Reach to introduce new characters and settings. As Reach ends with the destruction of the titular planet, Bungie wanted to make sure that players still felt a sense of accomplishment and success. Leto said, quote, "It is a challenge overall to ensure the player feels they're doing the right thing all the way to the end." Leto recalled that making a character-driven story was a great challenge. Players would come to know more about them as they progressed through the campaign, but the Spartan characters also had to behave intelligently. The Halo games consistently featured protagonists that were silent during gameplay sequences. Community manager Brian Gerard pushed for allowing players to choose a female Noble 6 and have the cinematics and dialogue changed accordingly. The post-credits game sequence was the subject of intense discussion. Some at Bungie wanted to remove it. Executive producer Joe Tung noted, quote, "The survive component felt great to us. We definitely talked about different versions of how that was happening and different versions of ending the game cinematically, but I think the way that it ultimately ended up is just really well paced, significant, and emotionally impactful of an ending." The developers originally intended to port existing Halo 3 assets to Reach and update them. For Halo 3, Bungie had been forced to shrink parts of the game to fit the game's engine's constraints, but wanted to make Reach look better than its predecessors. Bungie 3D artist Scott Shepard said, quote, "The more we started looking into this, the more we found that realistically we could rebuild each asset from scratch with a huge increase in quality without significantly investing more time." Texture resolution and polygon counts for models increased. The Reach assault rifle is constructed of more polygons than an entire Marine character from Halo 3. The prequel concept also gave the art team an opportunity to redesign key enemies, weapons, and elements of the series. Artists found inspiration in the original concept art for Halo Combat Evolved. The shape for the redesigned Covenant grunts came from a sketch that concept artist Shai Kai Wang created 10 years earlier. The developers redesigned the game engine, the software that handles rendering and much of gameplay. Bungie hired an expert in motion capture to develop more realistic character animations. Building a motion capture studio in-house saved Bungie time, as motion capture data could be applied to the game models the same day it was shot. The developers sought to increase replay value by focusing on improving artificial intelligence. Rather than scripting enemy encounters, they focused on a more open world or sandbox approach to battles. Martin O'Donnell scored Reach with additional music by Michael Salvatori. O'Donnell wrote somber and more visceral music, since the plot is character-driven and focuses on a planet that is already known in the Halo fictional universe to have fallen. The first music he wrote for Reach was played for the game's world premiere, and he used it as a starting piece to further develop themes. O'Donnell began work on Reach while ODST, for which he also wrote the music, was still in production, but he did not begin composing until August 2009. Past Halo collaborators, Salvatore, C. Paul Johnson, and Stan Lepard, assisted O'Donnell. Both Reach and ODST don't have the Gregorian chant. With Reach, he did not give them strictly divided responsibilities. O'Donnell explained, quote, "I decided this time to come up with some themes, tempos, keys, and other basic starting points for musical ideas. I shared these with all the other composers and just asked them to take off what they felt inspired by any of that material. If they felt inspired by any of that material. The works in progress they came up with were either retouched by O'Donnell or sent back to be finished by their composer. In previous Halo titles, sections of music overlap and change depending on player action. Reach's system of interactive audio was much more complex, featuring the ability to combine up to 7 layers of instrumentation compared to Combat Evolved's 2. The developers also expanded the sound effect system. Every interacting object in Reach produces 2 sounds for respective objects. For example, a Warthog vehicle that hits an armored Covenant soldier produces a crunching metal noise based on the 2 colliding elements. The interaction between objects and terrain was demonstrated in an in-game environment that O'Donnell called the Stripey Room, after the bands of alternating colors on the objects and environment. Reach's multiplayer beta was open to owners of Halo 3 ODST. More than 3 million copies of ODST were sold by November 2009. Bungie estimated between 2 and 3 million players for the upcoming Reach beta, compared to the 800,000 that participated in Halo 3's trial. Development schedules forced Bungie to release a 6-week-old beta fraught with bugs and issues already addressed in newer builds. Though concerned that these issues might tarnish the game's image, Gerard noted that they had little choice but to ship it as it was and communicate with players concerning the fixes. More than 2.7 million players participated in the beta, which lasted from May 3rd to 20th. The game was rolled out from an internal group of Bungie and Microsoft employees, with the total number of players in the thousands. When the beta went public, more than 1 million players played the first day, causing back-end servers to struggle to handle the traffic. While the engineering team had overestimated server load, bugs and server clusters caused the game uploads to become backed up, slowing matchmaking until the underlying issues could be fixed. Gerard noted that the 16 million total hours of playtime and large-scale rollout of the beta was vital to seeing how Reach would perform. Bungie used the beta to fix mistakes, glitches, and balance issues within gameplay elements. Leto said, quote, "We needed our fans to provide feedback," adding that having a large audience to hammer on the game allowed them to gather useful feedback to mold the finished product. The game automatically collected statistics such as upload and matchmaking speeds, as well as game preferences, sorting out what Gerard called, quote, "the more subjective anecdotal feedback from emails, notes, and forums proved more difficult." The Reach beta generated over 360,000 forum posts on Bungie community forums. Bungie created official threads for groups of issues to manage the high volume of feedback. Gerard said, quote, "We try to give people a little bit more of a direct avenue to give that feedback and to make our lives easier. It was definitely a lot easier to assess and digest." Certain feedback from the players did not correlate with the statistical data obtained from the matches during the beta. Chris Carney, the lead designer for the multiplayer mode, recalled vocal dissatisfaction with the pistol early in the beta. By the end of the beta, the weapon was responsible for most of the kills coming from newly included weapons in the game. Bungie deployed special test matches to eliminate lurking variables, balance gameplay, and make other informed changes. Reach was released on September 14th, 2010 in 25 countries. Tens of thousands of stores signed up for midnight launch events. Sponsored events took place in London, Oslo, Stockholm, and New York. 3 editions were sold. The standard edition consisted of the game and its manual. The limited edition featured an artifact bag with story information, different packaging, and an exclusive set of in-game elite armor. The legendary edition contained all the materials from the limited edition, a different packaging, 2 hours of developer commentary on the game's cutscenes, and an in-game Spartan armor effect, and a 10-pound statue created by McFarlane Toys. North American players who purchased a first-run copy of the game, in-store near launch day or pre-ordered, received an in-game Spartan Recon helmet customization. Players in other regions could only earn it by pre-ordering. Reach also came bundled with a limited edition Xbox 360 Slim that sports Halo-themed sounds and finish in 2 controllers. Microsoft later listed Reach as an Xbox Live Marketplace download on August 12, 2010, at a price of 99,999 Microsoft points, or around $1,250 USD. A spokesperson confirmed the download was for media review purposes and that there were no plans to distribute the game to the public through Games on Demand. 4 days later, hackers managed to access, download, and distribute the game online. Microsoft stated they were investigating the matter. Bungie released a demo on May 24, 2011, featuring a single-player level from the game's story mode, a multiplayer competitive map, and a cooperative firefight mission. Halo Reach was released for Windows and Xbox One as part of Halo the Master Chief Collection on December 3, 2019. According to Gerard, the team decided to have much more grandiose marketing for Reach than that of ODST. Microsoft gave Reach its largest game marketing budget at the time, surpassing the scale and $6.5 million cost of Halo 3's award-winning marketing. Marketers focused their efforts on connecting with consumers via universal themes rather than outdoing Halo 3's push. Interpublic Group of Companies, Agency 215, handled strategy and video development for the marketing push, while AKQA developed interactive components. The agencies were involved with Halo 3's marketing. The advertiser's brief was simple. Remember Reach. Focus on the heroes, not the victims. Expand our audience beyond Halo fanboys. The advertising campaign commenced in April 2010 with the live-action short Birth of a Spartan, a series of online videos highlighting a day in the life of an average Reach citizen before the Covenant invade, began on August 23rd, followed by TV spots on August 29th. The series concluded in late August with another short, Deliver Hope. As part of the promotions, Microsoft created an interactive light sculpture. Users logged on to a website where they could direct a KUKA industrial robot to plot pinpricks of light. Over 54,000 points created a monument to Noble Team that faded unless more points were plotted. Reach's marketing won several industry distinctions, among them 13 medals from the MI6 Game Marketing Conference Awards. Several lines of tie-in merchandise were launched. McFarlane, who had produced toys for Halo 3, created a line of 5-inch action figures, while Square Enix's Play Arts toy label created additional figures. Reach made $200 million in first-day sales, a record for the franchise. Its strong sales suggested to analysts that core titles in the holiday season could reverse sluggish video game sales in 2010. In its first 16 days, the game sold $350 million worth of merchandise. Reach premiered at the top of Xbox 360 and multi-platform charts in most territories. Figures from the NPD groups estimated that Reach sold 3.3 million units in North America, making it the third game for its console generation to sell more than 3 million units during the first month of its release, alongside Halo 3 and Modern Warfare 2. Halo Reach became the third best-selling game of 2010 in North America, behind Call of Duty Black Ops and Madden NFL 11. It sold 4.7 million units by September 2011. In the United Kingdom, Reach's opening week was the 5th best launch in the territory, beating Halo 3's debut by 20,000 units and ODST's by 200,000 units. In its second week on the UK charts, Reach was the second best-selling title, displaced by the racing game F1 2010. Reach continued to hold the top place in North America. In Japan, the game debuted at first place with 44,413 units, but fared poorly in the long term, as have other Halo games. This showing was above ODST sales of 29,734 in the comparable timeframe, but below Halo 3's 61,143. Reach dropped out of the top 20 best-selling titles entirely in its second week. Reach supports additional downloadable content. Bungie released the game's first DLC, dubbed the Noble Map Pack, on November 30th, 2010. This pack contained 3 maps, unique in that they are not based on Reach campaign levels. Microsoft partnered with Certain Affinity, which had worked on Halo 2 maps, to produce the second Defiant Map Pack, made available for download on March 15th, 2011. A title update was released by 343 Industries for Reach that modified game mechanics such as bullet spread and melee damage. The update also contained playlists for Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary. Purchasers of Anniversary Edition received a voucher to download the game's 7 multiplayer maps directly into Reach. The map pack was also made available to purchase via the Xbox Live Marketplace. Halo Reach received critical acclaim upon release. On aggregating review website Metacritic, it holds an average of 91 out of 100. Critics such as OneUp.com's Thierry Nune, the staff of Edge, GamePro's Matt Carble, and others considered Reach the best Halo title yet. Reviewers noted that there were a few major changes to the Halo formula. IGN's Eric Bruvig wrote that Reach was not another rehash, though franchise veterans would feel immediately at home in the game. Nune, Tom Hoggins of the Daily Telegraph, and others wrote that Reach took the best elements from previous games and combined them in Bungie's final entry. Hodgins noted that this approach made Reach, quote, a blistering, breathless crescendo to a decade's worth of work, but also that it was unlikely to convert non-Halo fans. The Daily Mirror's Kevin Lynch praised Bungie for introducing new gameplay mechanics like jetpacks without ruining the title's learning curve or game balance. Bruvig praised the campaign for avoiding the repetitive landscapes and circuitous, difficult-to-follow plots of past Halo titles. GameSpot's Chris Waters and others felt that the artificial intelligence of friendly non-player characters was less advanced than that of the enemies, especially while driving. Steve Boxer wrote for The Guardian that Reach's story made previous entries feel amateurish. Nune felt that whereas previous Halo titles had become mirrored in inconsistencies in Star Trek-like technobabble, Reach told a broader and more accessible story. Despite this, he contended that the game suffered from archetypal characters with which players spent little time. Quote, I almost forgot that Noble 4 even existed for a chunk of the campaign, as I rarely saw him. Wired's Gus Mastrapa unfairly compared Noble Team to the Marines of Aliens, writing that most of the characters were unmemorable and one-dimensional. Nune also faulted the game for occasional lapses in exposition, but summed these up as minor quibbles compared to the improvements. In contrast, Game Radar's Charlie Brott opined that Reach's campaign was better than ODST's, but lacked the franchise-changing potential it promised. Lynch judged that while Bungie still had not learned to create a perfect story, Reach does expertly set up a bombastic scene after scene. Ben Kuchera of Ars Technica enjoyed the multiplayer component of Reach for its scope, quote, no matter how you play, you will find something to like. Reviewers lauded the many customization options available to players. Waters and Kuchera praised the concept of psych profiles to home more agreeable teammate selections, but questioned its effectiveness. G4 considered Reach's Forge world more expansive and impressive than Halo 3's Forge offerings, and Lynch wrote that the sheer quantity of multiplayer options would give the game a long life cycle for players. Critics considered the audio-visual components a marked advance over Halo 3 and ODST's. The New Zealand Herald's Troy Rotty Forbes wrote that with the improved graphics and animation, Reach looks just like a big-budget Hollywood project. Official Xbox Magazine acknowledged better graphics in other games, but praised Reach for eye-catching beauty and breathless scope, noting that the inclusion of wildlife and civilians heightened the impression of a planet under siege. Martin Robinson of IGN UK appreciated O'Donnell's moody score and the redone sound effects, writing that the new weapons feel like they're about to tear your hands off. Halo Reach was nominated for and won many awards. At the Good Game GG Awards 2010, it was nominated for Game of the Year and won Best Sound. At the Spike Video Game Awards 2010, it was nominated for Best Shooter, Best Original Score, Best Xbox 360 Game, Best Performance by a Human Male, and Game of the Year. And it won Best Multiplayer. It won GameSpy's Shooter Game of the Year 2010. It won Drunk Tank's 2010 Game of the Year. During the 9th Visual Effects Society Awards, it won Outstanding Visual Effects in a Live-Action Commercial, Outstanding Real-Time Visual Effects in a Video Game, and Outstanding Animated Character in a Video Game. At the 14th Annual Interactive Achievement Awards, it was nominated for Action Game of the Year and Outstanding Achievement in Online Gameplay. At the National Academy of Video Game Trade Reviewers Navigator Awards 2010, it was nominated for Control Precision and Original Dramatic Score in a Franchise. And finally, during the 7th Annual British Academy Game Awards, it was nominated for Best Action, Technical Innovation, Best Multiplayer, and the Game Award. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary is a 2011 first-person shooter game developed by 343 Industries, Saber Interactive, and Certain Affinity, and published by Microsoft Game Studios for the Xbox 360 console. It is a remaster of Halo Combat Evolved from 2001, originally developed by Bungie. Announced at the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or E3 2011, it was released on November 15, 2011, the 10th anniversary of Combat Evolved and the original Xbox's release. Anniversary was later included as part of Halo the Master Chief Collection for Xbox One in 2014 and for Windows and Xbox Series X and S in 2020. Following the release of Halo 3 in 2007, Bungie separated from Microsoft to become an independent company once again, but the rights to Halo remained with the latter, which formed an internal division to oversee Halo franchise development, although Bungie themselves would produce 2 more games, Halo 3, ODST, and Halo Reach, as part of their obligations to the publisher. 343 Industries, the internal division, approached Saber Interactive with a proposal to remaster Combat Evolved for the game's 10th anniversary, as the former were developing Halo 4, the series' next main entry. Saber's chief operating officer, Andrew Ions, recalled that the offer was, quote, an opportunity we could not miss, as Saber had never before worked on a major game franchise, and many team members were fans of Halo. Saber developed concept art to form visual ideas for the remaster and then flew to Seattle, Washington to meet with 343 Industries. 343 Industries wanted a complete remaster of the original game by the 10th anniversary of Halo's release, giving Saber just over a year to complete the project. The gameplay was to remain unchanged. While the original game had imbalanced elements, 343 Industries decided to preserve the game experience players remembered while introducing young fans to the game for perhaps the first time. The visuals, meanwhile, would be updated, along with added features like campaign skulls. Ions recalled that experimentation with the game was limited. Redoing keyframed character animations were off limits because redoing them could introduce gameplay bugs, and design choices like game balance had already been determined. Likewise, porting the PC version of the game back to the Xbox to add features would have constrained the amount of visual improvements Saber could make, as well as requiring significant time training artists to use the same production pipelines that were used for Combat Evolved. Saber decided to use the original engine for the gameplay and its own for the visuals, despite the compatibility problems this solution presented. Development began under the codename Spark. The game was completed and released to manufacturing, also known as Going Gold, on October 15, 2011. To solve the issues of transferring information from the original game's engine to the Saber engine, the developers looked at how they used the third-party Havoc physics engine to handle object positioning, velocities, and collisions. Saber created a proxy of every object in the Halo engine to transfer into the Saber engine, meaning that the game's original programming remained unchanged. The game's ability to alternate between the legacy and remastered graphics engines in the campaign was made possible by the rendering engine developed by Saber Interactive. The technology allowed the developers to update Halo Combat Evolved's visuals and preserve the original gameplay. Originally, players would have chosen which graphical presentation to play from in the main menu. The in-game toggle feature quickly became a talking point among the developers, who pushed for it to be available to other players. Since the ability to switch between classic version and remastered version was provided to players, both engines worked simultaneously to retain the spontaneity of game. This approach caused several problems, including collision issues. Because objects and environments in the original game were of a lower resolution with fewer polygons, higher resolution visuals in the Saber engine could deviate from the original significantly. As the original game's geometry was used as the basis for collisions, in some cases characters could appear to walk through or above terrain, weapons could drop through the ground, and bullets would appear to be deflected by nothing. The sheer number of these issues, combined with the desire to keep the original gameplay intact, forced Saber to use a variety of approaches to fix the problems, including making tools for artists to visualize height differences and creating intermediate geometry. In some cases, the artists developed other ways of keeping to the same collision data while updating the visuals by changing the actual object. Turning a blocky, low-polygon rock into an angular forerunner structure avoided the collision issues. Where possible, the developers drew on or adapted assets from Halo 3 and Reach. For elements that had no analogs, Microsoft sent art director Ben Camarano to Saber's offices in St. Petersburg, Russia, to oversee the redesign of the game's visuals. Camerano established 4 tenets of Halo, what Ions termed heroic vistas, iconic imagery and characters, clean and vibrant aesthetics, and visceral action, to guide Saber's artists. Since the original assets already existed, concept artists took screenshots from the original game and painted new imagery over them to show how environmental effects, improved lighting, and new textures could change the look of the levels. Some of Saber's visual designs were considered too much of a departure from the original game. While the artists had changed the position of the Halo ring world and nearby planets to make a more pleasing skybox, Microsoft insisted maintaining continuity with the universe was more important and vetoed the changes. Vocal fans pointed out other inconsistencies with the game's visuals in pre-release trailers and pictures that Saber ultimately changed. Ions pointed to the floor designs of the Forerunner structures, the assault rifle, and the look of the Chief as places fans had an impact. The Chief's armor was redesigned from scratch instead of porting existing assets. Saber doubted that it would be able to convert Combat Evolved's split-screen cooperative play to facilitate online play. Greg Herman, a 343 Industries technical lead who had experience with Bungie technology, assisted Saber in development of a networking solution that would allow for online co-op. Since the original game would behave identically when given the same scenario and inputs, only the player inputs needed to be synchronized between players' Xbox consoles. Because of its previous contributions to the series, such as Halo 2's Blasticular and Halo Reach's defined map pack, Certain Affinity was approached by 343 Industries to streamline the multiplayer maps to take Halo Reach's gameplay options into account. The multiplayer is powered by the Halo Reach engine. 343's Industries director Frank O'Connor said that the decision to use Reach for the multiplayer was controversial, even within the studio. O'Connor explained, quote, "In Halo's day, there was never a proper networking mode. We couldn't roll back the technology. Recreating Halo's local area network multiplayer just wouldn't have worked with things like latency and all other modern Xbox Live related problems. So we would have to build it from scratch, and it still wouldn't have been the experience that players remember." An additional consideration O'Connor mentioned was that producing a full replication of Combat Evolved's multiplayer would have divided the Halo player base and interrupted Reach's lifespan. In choosing which 7 Halo maps to remake, 343 Industries set a number of rules. The map could not have been previously remade for a 360-era Halo title, it had to work with Reach's gameplay sandbox, and it had to be a fan favorite. The company retained the same art director between the campaign and multiplayer elements of Anniversary to make sure the two halves of the game looked visually cohesive. Since 343 Industries developed Halo 4 concurrently with the Anniversary Edition, it decided to use Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary to link the original trilogy with the upcoming Reclaimer trilogy by means of in-game collectibles similar to Halo 3's terminals, Halo 3 ODST's audio logs, and Halo Reach's datapads. While the other game's collectibles were aimed at and enjoyed by serious Halo fiction fans, 343 Industries wanted to make Anniversary's terminals higher budget, more impressive, and accessible to all players. Though Ions described Anniversary's one-year development cycle as a very smooth ride, some production issues that were not discovered until late in development contributed to bugs and other problems. Saber relied on a partially automated tool to render the game's cinematics, but did not do a thorough vetting of the results until after the game had reached the alpha stage of its release cycle. As a result, the developers realized that their addition of motion capture animation and lip syncing had caused serious audio syncing issues and animation bugs. The developers refreshed Combat Evolved's music and sound effects along with its visuals. While players can toggle the original music from Halo Combat Evolved, the soundtrack was also re-recorded in partnership with Pyramid Studios using the 75-piece Skywalker Symphony Orchestra and the Chandelier Vocal Ensemble. Because there were no MIDI recordings of the original game's music, Paul Lipson, Lenny Moore, Tom Salta, and Brian Tiffin transcribed each piece of music. The soundtrack was released digitally and in 2 physical formats, a 2-disc CD edition and a vinyl record edition, the later of which was limited to 2,000 units. The vinyl edition contains 16 tracks on 2 sides and comes with a code to download the rest of the Anniversary soundtrack digitally. The compact disc edition contains 39 tracks and was released on November 15, 2011. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary was announced to the public with a trailer on June 6, 2011 at Microsoft's annual E3 Global Media Briefing, which closed with the teaser trailer for Halo 4. Bonuses for pre-ordering the game included a Master Chief Xbox 360 avatar costume and an exclusive Grunt funeral skull, which toggles whether enemy grunts explode upon death. During the Halo Universe panel at the 2011 San Diego Comic-Con, a short trailer showcasing the animation used in the terminals with a narration by 343 Guilty Spark was shown to the fans. Microsoft launched the Halo Living Monument, consisting of a live-action short and a website to celebrate the launch of Combat Evolved Anniversary. 13 retail Microsoft stores hosted launch events for Anniversary's November 15, 2011 midnight release. Festivities included 16-player multiplayer matches, limited edition giveaways, and appearances by the game's developers. In the United Kingdom, Microsoft and the British video game retailer Game held 2 pre-release events with the full version of the game and prizes. In another British promotion, those who purchased a special Halo-themed Pizza Hut pizza during a 2-week promotional period surrounding the release date received 2 days of Xbox Live Premium membership. VideoGamer.com staff found the pizza to be delicious, but its connection to the Halo franchise tenuous. Microsoft and Pizza Hut would run a similar promotion the next year for Halo 4's release. As stated by tracking firm ChartTrack, Anniversary was the 6th best-selling game of the week across all platforms in the UK. It attained the 15th spot in Japan according to Media Create, while according to Amazon orders, it was the 2nd best-selling game for the 360 platform in the same period. It was the 3rd best-selling Xbox 360 game in North America during its first week. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary was released on the Xbox One as part of Halo the Master Chief Collection on November 11, 2014, with support for 1080p 60 rendering. A PC version of the game for the Master Chief Collection was released on March 3, 2020. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary received generally positive reviews. On aggregate review website Metacritic, the game had a weighted score of 82 out of 100 based on 73 reviews from critics. On Game Rankings, the game has an overall score of 81% based on reviews from 53 critics. The staff of official Xbox Magazine praised the developers for preserving the original gameplay, avoiding revisionist horrors in Star Wars re-release moments. Brandon Justice of Electronic Gaming Monthly wrote for fans of the series, quote, "Anniversary is one of the best pieces of fan service our industry has ever produced, and you need to go buy it." The remastered visuals were positively received. Reviewers such as the Inquirer's Chris Martin and the Escapist's Russ Pitts singled out the graphics switch button for praise. The Guardian's Steve Boxer called the feature utterly fascinating, a bit like archaeology on your console, and said that the visual overhaul improved areas where the original game was weak, such as rendering outdoor environments. While praising most of the game's refinements, Waters singled out the Flood as enemies he thought the original game envisioned better, saying, quote, "The simplicity of the classic look feels more sinister and alien." Hamazas of Destructoid appreciated the visual updates, but not some of the resulting audio animation syncing issues. Reviewers disagreed on how the core gameplay of Combat Evolved, unaltered in Anniversary, had aged over 10 years. Writing for GameSpot, editor Chris Waters opined that, quote, "The fundamental mechanics of the game have endured well, with responsive controls and challenging enemies." Paglan writer Adam Goody agreed, praising rock-solid controls and tight gameplay, while Mike Wilcox of the Sydney Morning Herald argued the Anniversary Edition, quote, "proves a game with a winning formula doesn't wither with age." IGN Stephen Hopper, on the other hand, felt that the level design was dated, the repetitious environments making it easy for players to lose their bearings, and that vehicles handled poorly. Giant Bomb's Brad Shoemaker wrote that while the best aspects of the game remained, other aspects, such as the level design and fighting the Flood, were no less frustrating after 10 years. Digital Spy's Matthew Reynolds echoed that sentiment, praising the game for presenting situations unsurpassed in later games while faulting irregular checkpoints. Critics had split opinions on Anniversary's additional features. The stereoscopic 3D effect was alternately praised and dismissed. Matt Miller of Game Informer wrote that the feature, quote, "doesn't add anything to the experience," while Az described the feature as fantastic, considering its use in Anniversary to be more subtle and pleasing than in other games. Az also applauded the narrative terminals, although he criticized the Kinect voice command support for being slower in combat than pressing buttons. Ben Kutra of Ars Technica enjoyed the improvements of the Halo maps and Anniversary's multiplayer mode, but criticized the inability to play said mode via 4-person local split screen as the original game. Reynolds agreed with 343 Industries' choice to use Reach for Anniversary's multiplayer mode, writing that the map pack offered, quote, "a smart way of reintroducing players back into the game," as well as commending Halo's combat for offering an alternative to contemporary military shooters. Halo 4 is a 2012 first-person shooter game developed by 343 Industries and published by Microsoft Studios for the Xbox 360. Halo 4's story follows a genetically enhanced human super soldier, Master Chief, and his artificial intelligence construct Cortana as they encounter unknown threats while exploring an ancient civilization's planet. The player assumes the role of Master Chief, who battles against a new faction that splintered off from the remnants of the Covenant, a former military alliance of alien races, as well as a new enemy, mechanical warriors of the Forerunner Empire known as the Prometheans. The game featured a new selection of weapons, enemies, and game modes not present in previous titles of the series. In October 2007, shortly after the release of Halo 3, Halo developer Bungie split off from the parent company Microsoft. Microsoft retained the intellectual property and rights to Halo, and Bungie continued developing Halo games until 2010. During this period of time, Microsoft formed an internal division, 343 Industries, to manage the franchise and develop future games. In 2008, while 343 Industries was still in formation, Microsoft approached Starlight Runner Entertainment to help assemble the Halo Bible. Starlight Runner is a New York-based company that specializes in creating and producing transmedia franchises. Their job was to examine all content of the Halo universe, clean it up, and make it coherent and understandable for the people involved with the creation of Halo games and media. Frank O'Connor, a content manager at Bungie, assisted the team with the creation of the Halo Bible before moving to 343 Industries to become Halo franchise development director. Unlike the original trilogy, the story for Halo 4 was designed to be part of a multi-game arc from the beginning. Christopher Schlurf and Holmes wrote the script and story. In addition, 343 Industries aimed for a more complete connectivity between all of their future media than ever before, relating Halo 4's story to the Forerunner saga and Kilo 5 trilogy novels, as well as using terminals and Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary to introduce background knowledge on the Forerunners. 343 started with a staff of roughly a dozen people, but grew to nearly 200 through development. Halo 4's development team included former employees of more than 25 AAA studios. Prospective employees could not be told they were going to be working on Halo 4. Frank O'Connor, 343 Industries franchise development director, said, quote, "We had people who we hired who hated Halo because of X. What that really meant was, I really feel like this game could be awesome because of Y input. That's what I'm going to bring into it. I want to prove it, and I'm passionate about proving it." So we ended up with a bunch of people who were genuinely passionate about the product. That is a huge advantage, and that helped in hiring and forming our team. This rapid hiring and growth occurred during the development of the game, creating issues. Because the team was committed to a delivery date, Halo 4 executive producer Kiki Wolfkill said that the team was forced to make necessary mistakes, with production difficulties and a team inexperienced with working together contributing to development difficulties. 9 months before shipping, the developers restructured the game's production pipeline and gave individual teams more control due to bottlenecks in development. With so many developers from different backgrounds, forging a common goal and company culture was different. Creative director Josh Holmes recalled that an epiphany moment that proved the team was headed in the right direction was early in development, when the team completed a section of the game that was very traditional Halo. Despite positive feedback from testers, 343 Industries discarded the prototype as too traditional, but felt it showed the team could work together. Including contractors, 350 people worked on the game. 343 Industries contracted Certain Affinity, an independent video game development studio, to help with the development of Halo 4. They started work on the game in early 2011. Certain Affinity has worked alongside Bungie and 343 Industries on producing multiplayer content for previous Halo titles. The studio developed the Forge mode, co-developed war games, and created a number of maps and multiplayer modes for Halo 4. Halo 4 and Combat Evolved Anniversary were both officially announced on June 6, 2011 at E3 2011. Halo 4 is the first installment in the Reclaimer saga of Halo games. The studio's creative team, which included nearly 200 people led by creative director Josh Holmes, started developing the game as early as 2009. Prior to the release of the game, Microsoft Studios Vice President Phil Spencer stated the Halo franchise is, quote, "the most important entertainment product in the company," and that Halo 4 was the most expensive game that Microsoft had ever made. A demonstration of the game's campaign was first shown at E3 2012. The developers described it as a pivotal moment in development, as it was the first time the game had been shown publicly. The positive reaction was a morale boost for the team, who were unsure of how the public would react. On July 7, 2012, a pre-release build of Halo 4's Forge mode was showcased by 343 Industries and Certain Affinity at RTX, which took place at the Austin Convention Center. On September 26, 2012, O'Connor announced the game's development was complete. Following Halo 4's announcement, O'Connor reported that both Master Chief and Cortana would undergo radical changes in appearance for the game, some of them attributed to better graphics and others to story elements. The studio wanted Master Chief's appearance to convey an imposing mass and weight, to show that one of his characteristics is his 800-pound armor. They studied the armor changes that were made for the Spartans in Halo Reach, which were much bulkier than renditions in previous Halo games. Character and concept artists began redesigning the Master Chief by creating sketches. These sketches would be rendered into 3D models so the team could analyze the design from every possible angle. The team would then return to creating sketches to make adjustments, and repeat the process until the main structure for the Master Chief was created.
The team then worked on the finer details of his appearance. During the concepting process of Halo 4, O'Connor decided it would be best for the franchise to explore the Forerunner fiction of the Halo universe, which had remained largely a mystery before 343's Industries' involvement in the franchise. This ultimately led to the creation of a new race of enemy, the Prometheans, warriors of the Forerunner Empire. Given that the Forerunners themselves had never been featured in previous Halo games, the design process for the appearance of the Prometheans was long and tedious. The art team produced a large number of sketches, which were presented to other members of the studio to get feedback and reactions. Many variations of different character models were considered before the team decided on a final design. The main goal when designing their appearance was to make them resonate with the player and invoke the image of the Forerunner architecture and language that had been portrayed in previous Halo media. Upon death, the Promethean Knight dissolves from the point where it was last shot. This visual effect also occurs when certain enemies are killed by Promethean weapons. From a gameplay standpoint, the design for the Prometheans also needed to fit in well with the sandbox so they'd be suitable enemies to fight. A goal when designing their behavior was to make them highly adaptive from a tactical standpoint. For example, the Promethean Knight can phase in and out of space, allowing it to retreat or charge the player at any given moment. This changes the way that a player engages in a combat encounter. Holmes explained that one of the goals for Halo 4's campaign was to incorporate more human elements into the story. To accomplish this, the team wrote a B-story that explored Master Chief's relationship with his AI partner, Cortana, who would break down into a dementia-like state. The development team realized that Halo 4's narrative could be dense and hard to approach, making it inaccessible for new players. They found incorporating such a storyline into an action game to be extremely challenging and considered dropping it during development. Holmes, however, was adamant about including it. He took inspiration from his mother's battle with dementia, which she was diagnosed with near the start of the game's development. This led Holmes to want to capture the emotion and tell a perfect story. The senior art director for Halo 4 is Kenneth Scott. He described the visual style of Halo 4 as being more ingrained in the expanded universe fiction and more mature than before. With the game's increased focus on the Forerunners, the artist invested heavily into the look and feel of Forerunner technology. The game also features more diversity in Forerunner structures, including fully active Forerunner technology, as opposed to the mostly inert and abandoned structures seen in the earlier games. The majority of the game is lit statically using light maps. This allowed the art team to achieve realistic lighting effects with full global illumination and ambient occlusion. Image-based lighting is also used to ground scenes and make everything fit together better. The cooperative Spartan Ops mode originally began as a firefight type mode, similar to that featured in Halo Reach, but was composed of different objective-oriented mission types. Over the course of development, changes were made to Spartan Ops to include a narrative that would tie Halo 4's multiplayer together. The missions were designed primarily for 4-player co-op. The Spartan Ops development team worked with the narrative team to use ideas and storylines to shape the mode such that the cinematics would tie in with the missions. Glasgow-based animation studio Axis Animation assisted 343 Industries on the creation of CGI cinematics for the Spartan Ops game mode. Axis have produced animation for numerous video games, including the award-winning announcement trailer for Dead Island. To make each Spartan Ops episode as engaging as possible, the team at Axis shot and edited episodes in live action using performance capture. The team then used the reference cameras at the live action shoot to create a performance edit before shooting with CG cameras to provide more coverage of all scenes and a greater selection of shots for the editorial team. The shading team at Axis made use of the 3D animation package Houdini to procedurally generate the environment in the cinematics. Axis worked with Glasgow-based audio post-production company Salavas on sound design and the final mix for the Spartan Ops cinematics. Facial motion capture was also utilized to take the movements and facial expressions from actors and apply them to the in-game cinematics for both Spartan Ops and Campaign. Performance capture for both Campaign and Spartan Ops cutscenes was directed and recorded at Giant Studios. Axis worked in conjunction with Giant Studios and Cubic Motion to develop a special facial motion capture solution that would retain facial expressions from the actors when creating the animation. Visual effects house The Sequence Group, who had previously developed animation for Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary's Terminals, returned to create additional animation for Halo 4. The Terminals feature a painterly artistic style, which Sequence president Ian Kirby felt appealed to gamers familiar with the style of concept art. In addition to creating the visuals for the Halo 4 Terminals, their work appeared in one of the game's main cinematics. To save time and expense using traditional motion capture methods to animate the 3D characters, the Sequence Group used twin Microsoft Kinect infrared sensors to create a homemade solution. The game utilizes much of the sandbox that has been featured across all 6 prior Halo games and other media, in addition to introducing new characters, weapons, vehicles, and other elements. The game engine used a heavily modified version of the engine established by Bungie. Unlike previous games in the Halo series, Halo 4 runs natively in 720p resolution. The game itself comes on 2 discs and requires 4GB of available storage space either on an 8GB USB flash drive or Xbox 360 hard drive to play the multiplayer component. Disc 2 is used to install the multiplayer content, and Disc 1 is used for launching the game. Due to rendering issues and significant engine changes, leader support for Halo 4's campaign and Spartan Ops was not featured in the game on launch. However, 343 Industries expressed that this feature may be implemented in the future. As with previous Halo titles, 343 Industries provides a statistic tracking service for players of Halo 4. Player data such as game history, character progression, and various statistics can be accessed in the game or via the Halo Waypoint website. The web services team at 343 Industries utilized the Windows Azure Service Bus messaging infrastructure to relay data from the Xbox Live Network to back-end databases, where player data and information is stored. Halo 4 player data can also be accessed via the Xbox Smart Glass application. British record producer and composer Neil Davidge wrote the music for Halo 4. Davidge is best known for his work as a co-writer and producer for the band Massive Attack, and also composed the scores for numerous films. Davidge intended to add a touch of romance to the score as well, as adding more electronic sounds while keeping Halo style. Shotaro Shojima, best known for his work on Konami's Castlevania Circle of the Moon and Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots, served as Halo 4's audio director. The team performed many live audio recording sessions, several of which occurred in Tasmania, Australia. Some of these recording sessions took place in generally inhospitable environments, such as underwater, in fire, and in ice, through the use of specially designed microphones. Other recording sessions have utilized homemade explosives. Kojima intended for the game's audio to be clearly grounded in the Halo universe, while also having a more realistic quality than in past titles. Music composer Kazuma Shinoshi, also formerly from Konami, joined 343 Industries during the production of Halo 4 in 2011. He contributed several additional tracks for the game. He would later go on to be the sole composer of the game's sequel, Halo 5 Guardians, in 2015. Voice actors returning to reprise their roles in Halo 4 include Steve Downes as Master Chief and Jen Taylor as both Cortana and Hosley. The two actors recorded together for the first time, as Downes actually flew to 343's Washington headquarters instead of recording in his hometown of Chicago. Voices for new characters include Mark Ralston as Captain Andrew Del Rio, Darren O'Hare as Thomas Lasky, Jennifer Hale as Sarah Palmer, Adrian Barbu as Dr. Tilson, Keith Sarsbaka as the Didact, Travis Williams as Joel Mond, and Laurie Tritel as the Librarian. Additional voices provided include Conan O'Brien, Andy Reiter, and Jason Bradbury. Employees of Rooster Teeth Productions have cameo roles in Spartan Ops as characters from the Halo Machinima Red vs. Blue. Bruce Thomas was the performance capture actor playing the role of Master Chief, and actress Mackenzie Mason played the performance role of Cortana. Taylor served as the motion capture source for Halsey. On January 19, 2012, McFarlane Toys announced that they would be creating action figures for Halo 4, bringing new characters, weapons, and vehicles from the video game to the fans. McFarlane Toys CEO and founder Todd McFarlane said that he was, quote, really excited to be working with the all-star team of 343 Industries. McFarlane also stated that they would continue and expand their previous figure line, which would be rebranded as Halo Universe. On February 14, 2012, toy company Mega Brands revealed a new product series in their Mega Bloks Halo Universe Collector's line. Both McFarlane Toys and Mega Brands revealed their figures at the 2012 American International Toy Fair. Jada Toys launched a new line of Halo 4 die-cast toys in August 2012. Sideshow Collectibles also revealed a Halo 4 premium Cortana figure. Toy manufacturer Funko released Master Chief, Cortana, and Spartan 4 figures for their Pop vinyl toy line on November 8, 2012. On June 11, 2012, Mad Catz Interactive Inc. announced that they had signed a deal with Microsoft Studios to create a Halo 4 branded gaming headset. The product shipped on October 30, 2012. 343 Industries and Microsoft also created a Halo 4 art book titled Awakening, The Art of Halo 4. It was published by Titan Books and released on November 6, 2012. The book contains a collection of concept art and sketches, accompanied by commentary from the artists at 343 Industries. A limited edition version of the book was also released, with only 1,000 copies available worldwide. Another book, Halo 4 The Essential Visual Guide, was created by 343 Industries in collaboration with DK Publishing and was released September 24, 2013. It contains annotated artwork and profiles on characters, items, and locations within the Halo universe. Microsoft also once again partnered up with PepsiCo, having done so previously while promoting Halo 3. In the United States, players were able to earn double experience in Halo 4 by purchasing Mountain Dew and Doritos and then redeem product codes found on the packaging using an iOS and Android app called Halo 4 King of the Hill, fueled by Mountain Dew. Players were able to redeem product codes from October 15, 2012 on websites that PepsiCo had set up for the promotion. In the United Kingdom, a promotion ran from September 24th, 2012 until December 4th, 2012, where purchasers of Mountain Dew were able to redeem codes to have a chance of winning copies of Halo 4, Xbox 360 avatar items, and a trip to Seattle to attend a tour around the studio of 343 Industries. Microsoft also partnered with Pizza Hut branches in the United Kingdom. People who entered the contest via an official website had a chance of winning Halo 4 themed prizes. The contest was open from October 22, 2012 until December 30th, 2012. Entering participants also received a free code for a Halo 4 Xbox 3 avatar outfit. Microsoft partnered with American Express to offer a promotion for eligible card holders in the United States and United Kingdom. Card holders who sync their American Express card with their Xbox Live account receive coupons and credits, and are also rewarded with additional credits and coupons for obtaining achievements in Halo 4. Microsoft also offered Halo 4 armor for Xbox Live avatars to people who watched at least 30 minutes of footage from the 2012 United States presidential debates on their Xbox 360. On October 31, 2012, Microsoft and government-owned organization Liechtenstein Marketing transformed the countryside of Liechtenstein for a special live-action event for fans and members of the press. The Gutenberg Castle was transformed into a military fortification where guests tried out Halo 4 for the first time. A nearby countryside had a United Nations Space Command military camp installed, and Balzer's Quarry was transformed into a battleground where 15 actors played out a 2-hour-long adventure. Halo 4 was announced with a trailer at E3 2011 titled Awakening. It was directed by Joseph Kosinski, and visual effects were created by animation company Digital Domain. Kosinski and Digital Domain had collaborated previously on the Halo 3 Starry Night commercial. The trailer is set on the UNSC frigate Forward Until Dawn during the opening events of Halo 4. It depicts the Master Chief being awakened from cryonic sleep by Cortana as the remnants of the frigate drift towards Requiem. The trailer was shortlisted in the visual effects and design categories at the 2012 AICP show and NEX Awards. On April 30th, 2012, it was announced that a web series titled Halo 4 Forward Until Dawn would play on Machinima Prime and Halo Waypoint during the weeks leading up to the release of Halo 4. The series debuted on October 5th, 2012, and contained 5 15-minute live-action shorts. It was directed by Stuart Hindler, and the project was Microsoft's largest investment in a live-action promotion. The series is set in 2526, 31 years before the events of Halo 4 at the beginning of the Human Covenant War. The plot is centered around the character Thomas Lasky, who appears in the video game. He is primarily portrayed by Australian actor Tom Green in the live-action series. The series also ties in with the plot of the Halo 4 campaign in Spartan Ops mode. The Master Chief is featured in the later part of the series and is played by actor Daniel Cudmore. At E3 2012, the presentation of Halo 4 was preceded with a live-action segment called The Commissioning. The video was directed by Nikolai Folksig and filmed over 2.5 days, with 4 weeks of post-production and visual effects added by Method Studios. Music in the trailer was scored by Neil Davidge. The music shows the UNSC Infinity vessel being pulled within the confines of the planet Requiem. Mark Rolston portrays Captain Andrew Del Rio in the live-action video. On October 18th, 2012, the Halo 4 launch trailer titled Scanned premiered on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. The trailer was produced by David Fincher and directed by Tim Miller. The trailer was filmed in Prague and features both CGI and live-action sequences. It shows Master Chief, bound by a force shield, being approached by an enemy. The enemy moves towards John, scanning his mind to find the source of his strength and search for weaknesses. A live-action sequence proceeds with flashbacks of John's past, showing him being kidnapped as a child, the Spartan 2 augmentation procedure, and him being suited into his Mjolnir armor. The trailer then shows John attacking Promethean Knights before returning to the scene of him bound and being faced by his enemy, the Didact. On October 23, 2012, the Halo 4 launch gameplay trailer was revealed. It featured segments of gameplay footage from the campaign and multiplayer. In October 2012, visual effects company Framestore assisted advertising agency McCain London in producing live TV adverts for Halo 4. The adverts aired on November 9, 2012. They featured live data on how many people were playing Halo 4 online, correct to within 5 minutes of the broadcast. Halo 4 was released in all territories except Japan on November 6, 2012. The Japanese version was released on November 8th. Microsoft initially released the game in 2 separate retail versions, branded as Standard and Limited Editions. The Limited Edition includes digital items for Xbox 360 avatars and in-game Spartan 4s, as well as access to future downloadable content in the form of 3 competitive multiplayer map packs, containing a total of 9 maps. It also includes a 90-minute extended version of the live-action digital series Halo 4 Forward Until Dawn and a UNSC Infinity briefing packet. At launch, 2 specializations were available to all players. Only owners of the Halo 4 Limited Edition had access to all 8 specializations. However, 343 Industries later granted access to players in certain countries who participated in an online multiplayer match during the opening fortnight. For the remaining players, the specializations were gradually unlocked in the months following launch. Microsoft produced an Xbox 360 Limited Edition Halo 4 console bundle that launched alongside the game. The bundle features 2 custom-designed controllers, a standard edition of Halo 4, a wired headset, exclusive downloadable content, and a Halo 4-themed Xbox 360 containing a 320GB hard drive. It was also announced that Microsoft would be releasing a standalone Xbox 360 Halo 4 Limited Edition wireless controller featuring a different design to the one included in the console bundle. Microsoft reported that their security teams and law enforcement were investigating the possibility of Halo 4 content being leaked on the internet in October 2012. Jessica Shea, community manager at 343 Industries, warned fans to be wary of Halo 4 spoilers that were posted on the internet. O'Connor stated at New York Comic Con that leaks of the game and footage would not have any impact on how the game is released or marketed, and that unlicensed uploading of high-profile games is inevitable. Over 10,000 stores across 40 countries opened for the launch night of Halo 4. On the evening before the game's release, a 50-foot diameter illuminated didactic glyph was flown by a helicopter over the River Thames in London from the Greenwich Peninsula to Tower Bridge. The glyph was created by a team of over 50 designers, engineers, and fabricators, and took approximately 8 weeks to design and construct. Following the release of the game, New Zealand censors declared many copies of Halo 4 illegal after deciding to label it with an R13 rating, restricting it to buyers aged 13 and over. Many copies of the game had already gone on sale with an unrestricted M certificate, but these copies are in breach of the Films, Video, and Publications Classification Act of 1993. On February 5th, 2013, a digital version of the game was released via the Xbox Live Games on-demand service. A Game of the Year edition of Halo 4 featuring the Season Pass and Champions Bundle DLC, pre-order bonuses, special avatar prop, and the entire first season of Spartan Ops was released on October 8th. Halo 4 grossed $220 million on its launch day and $300 million in its opening week. The gross was a new record for the franchise, surpassing Halo Reach's $200 million first-day gross. More than 1 million people played Halo 4 on Xbox Live within the first 24 hours of release. While Halo 4 debuted at the top of the UK video games chart and became the 18th best launch ever in the UK, it failed to beat the Week 1 sales records of Halo 3 and Halo Reach. U.S. retail tracking firm NPD reported that Halo 4 was the second most sold retail video game of November 2012, the third most sold retail game of December 2012, and the third most sold retail video game of the year. In the United States, Halo 4 became the best-selling Microsoft Studios title for sales counted during respective launch years. In 2012, Halo 4 was the third most played game on Xbox Live based on average unique users per day. Halo 4 supports downloadable content, which is available to download via the Xbox Live Marketplace. 3 Wargame map packs, each containing 3 maps, can be purchased individually or bought together with the Halo 4 Wargames Pass. The pass is included in the limited edition version of the game and is available to purchase on the Xbox Live Marketplace. The first map package, the Crimson Map Pack, was released on December 10, 2012. Players who were rewarded early access to specializations received complimentary access to the Crimson Map Pack for a limited time. The Majestic Map Pack was released on February 25, 2013, followed by the Castle Map Pack on April 8th. Forge Island, a map designed for Forge mode creation, was made available at no cost to Xbox Live users on March 29th. Microsoft released additional DLC on August 20th that could be purchased together as the Champions Bundle or separately. The 3 DLC packs include the Bullseye Pack, containing 2 multiplayer maps and early access to the Ricochet game type, the Steel Skin Pack, which offers steampunk-themed skins for weapons, and the Infinity Armor Pack, which includes new armor for customizing the player's Spartan. Aside from map packs, the game is supported by regular matchmaking playlist updates. These updates make playlist and balance changes, sandbox tweaks, and fix minor glitches. A title update to fix various game issues and glitches was released in December 2012. Spartan Ops went on a mid-season break that December and resumed on January 21, 2013. The back half of the season was made available as a free download from the Xbox Live Marketplace. On January 29th, an in-game search feature was implemented for Halo 4's file sharing system. A web version of the Halo 4 file browser was made available on February 27, 2013. On April 8th, 343 Industries launched a competitive skill ranking system akin to that featured in Halo 2 and Halo 3. During Spartan Ops' mid-season break, a free-to-enter Halo 4 tournament, titled Halo 4 Infinity Challenge, was launched by Microsoft in partnership with Virgin Gaming. Players could register on the Halo 4 Infinity Challenge website to participate in the tournament, giving them the opportunity to win various prizes. On July 3, 2013, 343 Industries announced a second tournament in partnership with Virgin Gaming, titled Halo 4 Global Championship. The tournament spanned a period of 5 weeks with a grand prize of $200,000. The tournament began on July 5th at RTX 2013 and on July 15th on Xbox Live. The tournament finals took place on September 1st at the 2013 Penny Arcade Expo. The event was streamed live and hosted by Larry Herb, Blair Herter, and Jessica Cobot. Halo 4 was re-released as part of the Halo Master Chief Collection for the Xbox One on November 11th, 2014, and for Microsoft Windows on November 17th, 2020. A sequel, Halo 5 Guardians, was released for the Xbox One on October 27th, 2015. Halo 4 received mostly positive reviews from critics, with aggregate review website Metacritic assigning it an average score of 87 out of 100 based on 87 reviews. Many reviewers were impressed by 343 Industries' debut effort and considered it a worthy addition to the series. Ryan McCaffrey of IGN gave Halo 4 a very positive review, considering it to be the best game of the series to date and the best Xbox 360 game of 2012. He called it, quote, a bar-raising triumph for the entire first-person shooter genre. Wesley Ian Poole of Eurogamer remarked that although he was initially skeptical of changes being made to the formula, 343's greatest achievement was managing to stay true to what Halo is. He was enthusiastic to see what the developer would do with Halo 5 and expected him to deviate further while retaining the series' magic. Halo 4's campaign received widespread acclaim and reception from critics. Reviewers enjoyed Master Chief's return as the protagonist, and the emotional connection between Master Chief and Cortana was highly praised. Mike Mayhardy of Game Informer complimented the characterization improvements of Chief and Cortana, calling their evolved love story more focused and relatable to the player, in comparison to the cloudy and impersonal stories from the previous games of the franchise. GameSpot editor Chris Waters described the, quote, thrilling and emotional return of Master Chief and Cortana as the highlight of the game. GamesRadar maintained that the narrative was enthralling and the campaign structure was much better than its predecessors. IGN's McCaffrey praised the game's lighting, movements, animations, and lauded the campaign for its pacing. Quote, deftly mixing on-foot combat, vehicle sequences, quiet story moments, and key Chief and Cortana interactions. Although Neil Davidge's work on the musical composition was noted as a bold shift, McCaffrey claimed the music seemed complementary rather than additive. OneUp.com reviewer Jose Otero was critical of Halo 4's story, writing that the ending of the game doesn't make a lot of sense. He also remarked that while the narrative tied the main plot lines together well, it was disappointing to see some of these smaller story points were ignored entirely. Both G4 and official Xbox Magazine agreed that the plot became convoluted on occasions and might be difficult to understand for new players of the franchise. G4 reviewer Adam Rosenberg also stated that while the soundtrack had some memorable moments, he was disappointed that composer Neil Davidge had chosen to ditch the familiar theme of the previous games. Michael Gapper of Computer and Video Games drew a comparison between Halo 4 and Halo 2. He stated that the hardware limitations of the Xbox 360 had negatively impacted Halo 4's campaign, in the same way that they had throttled Bungie's ambitions for Halo 2 on the original Xbox. He explained that although the game was visually stunning, this had detracted from the scale and spectacle that was present in Halo 3's campaign. He found the spaces within the campaign to be narrow and constrained, which led to a lack of tactical options and encounters. Competitive multiplayer received positive reception by critics. Chris Waters of GameSpot welcomed the new armor abilities and gameplay tweaks introduced in multiplayer. He praised the continuing robustness of custom game options and the accessibility of level editing in Forge. CVG's Gapper stated that the new scoring system alone made Halo 4 multiplayer the best in the series, emphasizing that recognition for assists and completing objective tasks was a positive change. Polygon writer Arthur Geis said that the new game mode Domination was the best addition to Halo multiplayer since the introduction of Xbox Live. He also thought that the multiplayer component was more approachable to people outside of the core player base, without dumbing anything down. Reception towards Spartan Ops was mixed to positive. Some reviewers expressed their disappointment in Spartan Ops replacing the competitive firefight mode. Criticisms were aimed at the brevity of missions and lack of replay value. Despite any shortcomings, IGN said the mode was a must-play for the incredible pre-episode cinematics, which open up a number of interesting narrative possibilities for future episodes and seasons. Martin Robinson of Eurogamer complained about the repetition of environments within the first half of the season and noted that missions quickly become a chore. He felt that Spartan Ops was a weak, bloated alternative compared to Firefight. OneUp.com found that while the short length felt odd initially, the mode was still fun to play and offered more opportunities to play Halo cooperatively. Halo 4 won and was nominated for numerous awards. Even prior to release, it staked up a heavy number of nominations and wins. The 2011 Spike TV Video Game Awards saw Halo 4 nominated for Most Anticipated Game by Viewer Votes. The Golden Joystick Awards 2012 saw Halo 4 nominated for One to Watch. At the E3 2012 Game Critics Awards, Halo 4 was nominated for Best of Show and Best Console Game, and won Best Action Game and Best Online Multiplayer Game. At the E3 2012 Game Critics Awards, Halo 4 was nominated for Best of Show and Best Console Game, and won Best Action Game and Best Online Multiplayer Game. At IGN's Best of E3 2012 Awards, it was nominated for Best Game Overall and Best Action Game, and won Best Xbox 360 Game and Best Shooter. After release, it got even more nominations and awards. At the 2012 Spike TV Video Game Awards, it was nominated for Best Shooter, Best Multiplayer Game, Best Original Score. Halo 4 won Best Xbox 360 Game and Best Graphics. 343 Industries got nominated for Studio of the Year. Jen Taylor got nominated for Best Performance by a Human Female for her role as Cortana. Master Chief was nominated for Character of the Year, voted on by the viewers. At the 2012 Inside Gaming Awards, Halo 4 was nominated for Best Art Direction, Best Animation, Best Original Score, Best Game Cinematography, and Best Character Design. It won Game of the Year, Best Competitive Multiplayer, and Best Sound Design. Games Radar gave it Shooter of the Year and had it as a runner-up for Game of the Year. At XPlay's Best of 2012 Awards, it was nominated for Game of the Year, Best Multiplayer Game, Best Multiplayer Co-op Game, and Best Art Direction. It won Best Shooter. At GameSpot's Best Games of 2012, it was nominated for Xbox 360 Game of the Year and Overall Game of the Year. It won Shooter of the Year. At IGN's Best of 2012, it was nominated for Best Overall Game, Best Xbox 360 Story, and Best Overall Shooter. It won Best Xbox 360 Shooter, Best Xbox 360 Graphics, Best Xbox 360 Sound, Best Xbox 360 Multiplayer, Best Xbox 360 Game, Best Overall Multiplayer Game, Best Overall Graphics, and Best Overall Sound. At OXM's Game of the Year 2012 Awards, Halo 4 was nominated for Game of the Year, Best Multiplayer, and Best Villain for the Didact. It won Best Shooter. 343 Industries also won Developer of the Year. At the 16th Annual DICE Awards, it was nominated for Action Game of the Year, Outstanding Achievement in Art Direction, Outstanding Achievement in Online Gameplay, and Outstanding Character Performance, Male or Female. It won Outstanding Achievement in Connectivity and Outstanding Achievement in Visual Engineering. Halo 4 was nominated for Best Sound Editing in Computer Interactive Entertainment at the MPSE Golden Reel Awards. At the 9th British Academy Video Game Awards, it was nominated for Action, Artistic Achievement, Audio Achievement, and Multiplayer. At the 13th Annual Game Developers' Choice Awards, it was nominated for Best Audio, Best Technology, and Best Visual Arts. And finally, at the 2013 Golden Joystick Awards, it was nominated for Game of the Year, Best Storytelling, Best Multiplayer, Best Visual Design, Best Gaming Moment for Cortana's Fate, and 343 Industries got nominated for Studio of the Year. Halo, the Master Chief Collection, is a compilation of first-person shooter games developed by 343 Industries, Certain Affinity, and Saber Interactive, and published by Xbox Game Studios. It includes the first 6 main games in the Halo franchise released between 2001 and 2012, originally developed by Bungie and 343 Industries. It was released for Xbox One on November 11, 2014. 343 Industries studio head Bonnie Ross pushed for Halo 4 to be a launch title for the Xbox One, but it instead released in 2012 for the Xbox 360. The timing left a gap in the release schedule between Halo 4 and Halo 5. Having previously developed Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary for Combat Evolved's 10th anniversary, the initial plan was to release a similar standalone Halo 2 Anniversary within the first few years of the new console's lifecycle. The collection was developed by 343 Industries, Certain Affinity, and Saber Interactive, with the development assisted by the United Front Games and new cutscenes by Blur Studio. Following the announcement of the Master Chief Collection at the Electronic Entertainment Expo E3 2014, Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft's Xbox division, stated that the collection originally began as just a remastering of Halo 2 to celebrate its 10th anniversary. 343 Industries decided that it would be a great opportunity to release the other main Halo titles for the Xbox One in preparation for the 2015 release of Halo 5 Guardians. All of the games run at 60 frames per second and have received lighting upgrades. All but the Halo 2 remaster have a native resolution of 1080p. On October 18, 2014, the game had been declared gold, indicating it was prepared for duplication and release. Combat Evolved Anniversary is based on the high-definition remaster of the original game released in 2011 for Xbox 360. Kinect and stereoscopic 3D features from the Xbox 360 version are not supported in the Xbox One collection. Ruffian Games was responsible for developing the Halo 3 and Halo 4 ports, which received only a simple lighting upgrade, and an increase in both frame rate and rendering resolution. 343 Industries designed the interfaces and online networking. United Front Games worked on the unified interface that works across all games. Coinciding with the release of the Master Chief Collection, 343 Industries developed the Halo Channel, an application for the Xbox One and Windows. It is a successor to the Halo Waypoint app that was released on the Xbox 360. The Xbox One app is integrated with the collection, allowing players to access Halo Nightfall and terminal animations, unlock rewards for the game, and launch the games directly from the app. Saber Interactive, which co-developed Combat Evolved Anniversary, assisted in the remaster of Halo 2's campaign. It received a complete visual overhaul. The game's soundtrack and sound effects, such as weapon audio, were updated as well. The refined Halo 2 cutscenes, as well as 2 new cutscenes created to complement the Halo 5 Guardian storyline, were produced by Blur Studio. They feature the same structure and timing of the originals, and motion capture was utilized for the animation. Terminals, a feature first introduced in Halo 3, were added to the Halo 2 Anniversary campaign. Their purpose was to create a connective tissue for stories within the Halo universe that explores the relationship between the different races within the Covenant and extensively covers the events portrayed in Halo 2. Terminals also gave 343 Industries the opportunity to introduce Spartan Locke, a main character in Halo 5 Guardians. Visual effects studio, the Sequence Group, collaborated with 343 Industries to provide animation. The group had previously performed similar work in Combat Evolved Anniversary and Halo 4. Several voice actors reprised their roles, including Keith David as the Arbiter, John DiMaggio as the Heretic Leader, and Tim Dabu as 343 Guilty Spark. Mike Colcher provided the voiceover for Spartan Locke. Once the Halo 2 Anniversary project was greenlit, executive producer Dan Ayoub at 343 Industries reached out to Max Oberman of Certain Affinity for assistance on the multiplayer component. Oberman originally designed Halo 2's multiplayer and founded Certain Affinity after leaving Bungie in 2006. Certain Affinity was asked to remake several of the multiplayer maps from Halo 2. The team found it difficult to decide how many of the original 24 maps to redesign and eventually settled on 6, 2 small, 2 medium, and 2 large, to provide some variation. Along with the visual upgrade, Halo 2's original score was re-recorded with the San Francisco Symphony at Skywalker Sound Studio. Guitarist Steve Vai returned to the franchise to play on additional tracks with guitarist Misha Mansour. The Halo 2 Anniversary soundtrack was released on November 11th, 2014. On June 9th, 2014, Halo the Master Chief Collection was announced at E3 with a trailer titled Hunter and the Hunted. The trailer was created by animation company Digital Domain, which had previously collaborated on other Halo commercials. The trailer recreates a moment from Halo 2 in which the Master Chief rides a bomb into a Covenant ship. It is narrated by Keith David, who voices the Arbiter. Several other trailers were released prior to launch, showcasing the updated cinematics and terminals featured in Halo 2 Anniversary and gameplay from all titles across the collection. On October 31st, 2014, 343 Industries released a documentary, Remaking the Legend, Halo 2 Anniversary, chronicling the history of Halo 2 and the development of Halo 2 Anniversary. It also features interviews with developers at Bungie and 343 Industries. The documentary was initially broadcast on Twitch and was later available on the Halo channel, Xbox Video, and YouTube. In August 2014, UK retailer Game revealed 2 special editions of the Master Chief Collection. The limited edition includes a steelbook case, a map book, and an in-game modifier, while the Mjolnir edition includes all the content from the limited edition, along with a 1-foot statue of the Master Chief. In October 2014, Microsoft announced a White Master Chief Collection Xbox One bundle for Brazil and other select markets. A second Xbox One bundle containing the collection was announced for release in the United States during March 2015. The collection was released worldwide in November 2014. 343 Industries confirmed that the collection would be available to download from the Xbox Game Store on the day of release. A 15GB patch went live to those who had digitally pre-ordered it through the Xbox Game Store on November 6, 2014. Players who pre-ordered through the Xbox Game Store also received early access to the Boom Skull, which provides double the explosion physics in the Halo Combat Evolved and Halo 2 campaign mode. It became available to all other users on December 12, 2014. At launch, many players experienced problems with online matchmaking modes. 343 Industries released numerous updates to address these issues. On November 24, 2014, Bonnie Ross, head of 343 Industries, issued a public apology noting issues, quote, that have resulted in a frustrating experience, including long matchmaking times and low session success rates. On November 19th, 2014, Microsoft announced that as an apology for the issues, it would give a free month of Xbox Live Gold, a special avatar and nameplate, and a free downloadable copy of the Halo 3 ODST campaign to those who played the game between its launch and December 19th, 2014. The campaign mode of ODST was released to the public on May 30th, 2015, and with it, 100 additional achievements. It is available to purchase separately to those who are not eligible for a free code for the add-on. Spartan Ops, the episodic content originating in Halo 4, was released as free downloadable content for the Master Chief Collection on December 22nd, 2014. Additional achievements for Spartan Ops and the multiplayer mode were released on January 8th, 2015. Halo Nightfall, a series of weekly episodic digital videos directed by Sergio Memka-Gizan and produced by Ridley Scott, launched soon after the collection was released. The series was designed to connect the stories of previous Halo games to the upcoming Halo 5. The Halo 5 beta launched on December 29, 2014, and ran until January 18, 2015. With the release of the Master Chief Collection, Microsoft and 343 Industries announced an official esports league, the Halo Championship Series, HCS. 343 Industries partners with the Electronic Sports League, live streaming platform Twitch, and other tournament organizers to foster the competitive multiplayer community in Halo. The first season of HCS, featuring Halo 2 Anniversary's multiplayer, launched in November 2014 and ran until March 2015. It served as a testbed for ideas and future plans that 343 Industries had for esports in Halo 5. In April 2018, the MCC Insider program was launched to playtest upcoming changes to the Master Chief Collection, notably the various improvements to its interface and to its multiplayer modes. As part of the various changes, 343 Industries introduced patches to bring back well-known Halo 2 glitches from the original Xbox version, such as sword flying in the campaign. This led to an increased interest in speedrunning the game on the MCC version. On August 27, 2018, the changes were published for all players. In August 2020, 343 Industries announced that Xbox PC crossplay will be made available by the end of 2020 based upon input-based matchmaking. The crossplay option was made available with the release of the final game in the collection on November 17, 2020. On March 12, 2019, following a series of teases, Xbox Game Studios announced on the Inside Xbox livestream that the Master Chief Collection would be coming to Windows via the Steam digital distribution platform in addition to the Microsoft Store. Splash Damage and Ruffian Games aided 343 Industries in the development of the port. Xbox Game Studios wrote out the individual games in the collection as separate add-ons, starting with Halo Reach and then proceeding chronologically from Combat Evolved Anniversary. Upon this announcement, 343 Industries offices in Redmond, Washington were overwhelmed by pizza delivery orders from anonymous users, particularly from Reddit. Brian Sketch Gerard, community director at 343 Industries, eventually pleaded fans to stop sending pizzas as the number of pizzas being delivered was becoming overwhelming. Halo Reach was launched on Steam and Microsoft Store on December 3, 2019, alongside the Xbox One version as the first game distributed to PC players as part of the Master Chief Collection. The other titles became available over the following year. 343 Industries had set out to have the collection playable on PC before the launch of Halo Infinite in 2021. The final game to release on PC was Halo 4, launching November 17, 2020. The PC version of the collection was simultaneously made available on PC Game Pass, with the option to install the whole release or individual titles through the subscription. Halo Reach was released on December 3, 2019. Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary was released March 3, 2020. Halo 2 Anniversary was released May 12, 2020. Halo 3 was released July 14, 2020. Halo 3 ODST was released September 22, 2020. And finally, Halo 4 was released November 17, 2020. The Xbox One version of the collection received an update enhancing the game for Xbox Series X and S consoles on November 17, 2020. It features various graphical and gameplay improvements, including some features introduced with the PC release, such as the variable field of view and running at 120 FPS in both single-player and multiplayer modes, with support for 4K resolution on Xbox Series X. Halo the Master Chief Collection received generally positive reviews. Aggregating review website Metacritic gave it a score 85 out of 100 based on reviews from 69 critics. Reviews praised the graphics, frame rate, and content included in the bundle, but criticized the matchmaking problems that prevented players from playing online multiplayer modes on release day. The technical problems affected the online experience. Forbes' Paul Tassi wrote the game on release was just flat out broken, and though improvements have been made, it, quote, may very well be the worst major game release in a decade. Stuart Andrews of Trusted Reviews commented that Halo 3 looks and feels surprisingly dated when compared to the rest of the collection, particularly Halo 2 and Halo 4. The last major update on Steam was in February of 2026 and mainly changed the way that customization options in the exchange would be available. They do make updates to the Steam page to showcase mods for the community often. We like to look at the sales of a game, even if just on Steam, to see how well it is doing among the PC audience. According to Gamealytic, Halo the Master Chief Collection has sold 8.6 million copies and brought in over $217 million in revenue. This is on top of any revenue coming in from other consoles and across the entire history of the series. For critical response from critics and audiences, Halo the Master Chief Collection has a mighty score on OpenCritic with an 87 top critic average, 88% of critics recommending, and a 90 player rating. On Steam, the game has a very positive rating with over 160,000 player reviews. When it comes to more detailed Steam reviews, people praise the Master Chief Collection for bringing one of their favorite franchises to PC. Some have gone as far to say as it is the best shooter compilation ever made, as it combines so much content into one very affordable package. There is so much content from a time when games weren't loaded with microtransactions that you really have your money's worth even when it isn't on sale. Gamers have praised the collection as protecting and preserving one of the greatest video game franchises ever made. Negative reviews, on the other hand, criticize the very frustrating data collection from Microsoft. Many even have trouble logging in as it requires a Microsoft account to play, and if you get locked out or have difficulty signing in, then the Master Chief Collection is completely unplayable. Others complain of some sound issues, while others are upset at the slop customization options. People also struggle with multiplayer matchmaking these days. We also like to look at how healthy the player base is for a game to see if people are still coming back to it after so long, and why people played so much of it in the first place. The highest player count for the Master Chief Collection was 161,024 players back when it launched on PC in December 2019. However, the Master Chief Collection still hosts a surprising number of players 6 years after the release on PC, with average player count ranging from 5,000 to 10,000 every day. For anyone looking to jump into the game these days, we like to see how much bang for your buck you're going to get for content. The Master Chief Collection has a single-player range of 44 hours to beat all the main single-player games, up to 306 hours to 100% them. Most importantly, let's discuss the costs. Halo the Master Chief Collection costs $40 for the entire game, which includes all Halo games from Combat Evolved to 4 and Reach. However, the lowest that the game has gone on sale for is $9.99. This is also the average price that the game goes on sale for often. You can tell a lot about a game from their achievements and more precisely the amount of players who have begun and finished it. Halo the Master Chief Collection has 700 achievements in the game. 89% of players have obtained Your Journey Begins, which just requires you to complete a campaign mission or a match of multiplayer. This is the easiest achievement to get, as you can get it simply by playing any part of the game, and as long as you try a match or mission, you'll get it. 7.9% of players have gotten Herald of the Reclamation, which requires you to complete all campaigns of the game on at least easy mode. You can get this achievement even if you play on a harder difficulty, such as normal, heroic, or legendary. So if you complete all of the campaigns at all, then you get this achievement. My personal rarest achievement is We'll Be Back, which only 1.3% of players have, which requires you to beat the par score on every Halo Reach level. These can be very difficult, and if you play on harder difficulties, then you'll have a better chance of getting the par score. I personally was able to get this one by playing a 4-person co-op campaign with my friends on legendary difficulty. There are many achievements tied for the rarest achievement, such as Naked Tyrant, Roadkill Rampage, Rock and Coil Hit Back, Lasso Master, Monopolized, and the one I have selected to showcase, Back for More, which requires you to complete the Lasso campaign playlist for Halo 2. While Lasso Master requires you to complete every Lasso challenge, I chose this one as apparently the Halo 2 one is the most difficult to complete. The Lasso challenges are brutal monsters and only for the greatest sadists out there. In order to help people see if they can run a game these days, let's look at the system requirements. For minimum system requirements, you must have an AMD Phenom 2 X4 960Ti or Intel i3550 processor, AMD HD 6850 or NVIDIA GeForce GTS 450 graphics card, and 43GB of available storage. There are no recommended system requirements listed on Steam. When it comes to my personal opinion, I must say, as someone that never got to experience the Halo franchise back on Xbox, I am so happy it is here on Steam for me to play. When I was younger, the only Halo game I remembered playing is Halo 4, which is not part of the original trilogy and not regarded as one of the best. I missed out on these when they first came out and only watched from the sidelines as it was at the height of its global phenomenon. Do they still hold up? Absolutely. Even the older ones, such as Halo Combat Evolved and 2, are legendary games for a reason. Reach is among my favorite in the series, and even ODST holds a special place in my heart for how it handles bringing a new tone to the franchise. Before even getting to my ranking, if you ask me if it is worth playing through the Halo games, the answer is absolutely yes, without a doubt. However, here is where my opinions may become controversial. Do I think the Halo games are perfect? No, I don't. In fact, I have my gripes about the game and some things that I personally just do not enjoy. The biggest amongst them is that the gunplay doesn't feel good to me. Even when replaying Reach with my friends earlier this year on Legendary, I noticed that the reason I felt how I did about the game was that the guns felt too light and too inaccurate. Perhaps I'm too used to more modern shooters, where everything has more weight to it, and you can accurately aim down scopes on every gun. But it became something I very clearly felt and noticed when replaying. But ultimately, I don't think that this brings the package down by much. I think the Master Chief Collection is close to perfect, but it doesn't hit the level of I'm loving this that I need to fill to put it in my must-play section of games. Overall, I'd give Halo the Master Chief Collection 4 out of 5 stars, and I say it is worth the cost. You get so much in this package that you really have to consider it a great deal even at full price, not only in the single player content but multiplayer as well. There was something special about going through Reach with my friends, and I will say that stays a fond memory for me, even as the rest of the games become more distant. There is a reason that Halo has persisted as a franchise, and that it became a part of gaming history, and while others may give it a perfect score, as I know I have a friend that absolutely would, I think it just so barely misses perfection, but lands so close to it that it might as well be an honorary must-play in my book. Thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. It really does mean the world to me. If you believe anything I provided today is helpful, then consider subscribing and liking the video. If you believe I have missed anything or have your own opinions around the Halo franchise, then please jump into the comments and let me know. Is Halo worth getting into 25 years later? After looking at the history of the franchise, the numbers, and my personal opinion, I believe that is up for you to decide. If you're looking for another video to watch, then YouTube thinks you'll like what is up on the screen right now. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and may luck be on your side.